Hello, and welcome back to Cartoon Aesthetics. We are once again honored to have with us today the one and only Eddie Fitzgerald. How's it going, Eddie?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good,
Great.
pretty good.
Earlier this year, Eddie gave us a really great retrospective interview all about his career. If you missed that, I'll put a link to it on screen right now. And because you all had such an enthusiastic response to that interview, Eddie has graciously agreed to come back and answer some of your questions today. So thanks to everyone who submitted their own questions for this follow up. And Eddie, thank you so much for joining us again.
Glad to.
The last time we spoke, we covered your career in pretty much a linear chronological order. I think this time we're going to be jumping around a lot more. So,
Great.
are you ready to answer some viewer mail?
I think so. I don't know. I might freeze at any moment, but okay.
Okay, then let's get right into it. Here's a easy enough question to start with. A viewer named Nessie Boy asks, "When is your birthday?"
Oh, well, it's in December 1946. That's when I was born, so it's coming soon.
Okay, well, happy birthday then. We're close enough. A viewer named Stretch Pants asks, before there's going to be a lot of names like that, Eddie.
I love these monikers.
Yeah. Before meeting and working for Ralph Bakshi, had you seen any of his films, and what did you think of them?
Oh, Ralph's. Well, it's funny. I, I love Ralph. Absolutely love him, and he was the best boss to work for, and a really creative guy, terrific cartoonist himself. Um, he could out cartoon a lot of the people who worked for him, and a real character though. Real. Anyway, well, let's see. I saw I saw everything he did up until the Lord of the Rings, which I just didn't think was cartoons format was the best way of presenting that. And of course, when I saw the live action movie decades later, I thought that, well, that's okay. That's the book.
Oh, so you ducked out when he began the rotoscoping period?
Yeah, and he did that. That was just an economic necessity for him. His heart is in cartooning, and he's a fine artist too. He's influenced by people like Frank Stella and that whole, what do you call it? Has a name, abstract expressionism, and so on. He loves that kind of thing and really good at it. And he's an easel painter, and he used to rent a studio when he was in L.A., a loft. Imagine that. And he's the real deal. He's a real artist. He's a genuine artist. I mean, the smell of paint.
Mhm. Do you remember when Fritz the Cat came out? Because
Yes.
I think that came out like a while before you had gotten to Hollywood. So did you see Fritz the Cat
Oh
back
yeah,
in
I thought it
in?
was good. I liked it. It's not my type of thing exactly, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was I thought it was refreshing. It was nice to see something like that. You know that my problem is, and it's no criticism. Fritz the Cat was a great film, but I for myself, I never want to deal out kids when I do animation. I know I did the worm film, which had something that a lot of parents didn't want their kids to see. It shows you how contradictory life is and how contradictory people are. But nevertheless, I gee, the thing, I I may have said this before, but it's worth repeating, and that is you adults when they like something, they just sit there like English aristocrats or something, saying, and if they like it, they say, "My, that was quite good," and then they just go on to the next thing. Where do you think we should eat? After the film or whatever. And whereas kids, when you put something on the screen that they like, they're very kinetic. If you're watching it at home on TV, they'll get up and beat up the pillow. Like go get him. Don't go in there, Dick. He's got a gun. That sort of thing. And they it can influence their whole life and can influence the direction they'll take, what kind of job they get later on. So adults aren't like that. For us, it's just one more entertainment during the day, and then you move on to something else. So why anybody would want to deal out kids? I never understood this movement. Like, we have to do things, that are for adults. It's the new threshold for animation. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not opposed to that, but can't you do something that's for both adults and kids? You're not dealing out the adults. You're not making it so sappy that the adults wouldn't like it, like
Hmm.
Daffy Duck and all that stuff. That's for everybody. It's for a whole family.
Hmm.
And so that's in spite of what I've done. If you listen to what my theories are as opposed to what I actually do, um, uh, I uh, I believe in things that are good that the kids like and that you want. I always thought when I do something, our kid's going to talk about it in the schoolyard the next day.
Yeah.
You should have seen it when, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, Ren and Stimpy definitely hits that sweet spot of being for kids and adults, like classic Looney Tunes did.
Yeah, yeah,
You wrote something on your blog. I don't have it with me, but I think you once said something to the effect of like, you have to get into animation as a kid. Like you can't really get into animation as an adult. You kind of have to like get the bug as a child first. So which made me think like, well, people do talk about maybe there should be more animation for adults, but it's like how much adult animation, how can adult animation appeal to adults who aren't already cartoon fans as kids? Like if they didn't watch cartoons much as kids, could they get into an adult cartoon later on in life? Probably not, I think is what you were theorizing.
yeah. Adults, you get an imagination deficit when you become an adult, and the if you want something that really affects people that makes a difference in their life, then you're going to have to bring children into the audience too. So I was never one of these people who said, "Gee, it's about time we had adult cartoons." I'm just the opposite. I think, hey, it's about time we can give the kids something that's really not the kind of pap that you see. The worst kind of cartoons. I don't know whether is the kind they used to have on PBS, where you have six children from every race and country of the universe, and they all defer to each other, and they're very philosophical and like nothing like the way kids really are. And I think, oh my God, who at PBS is doing this? Haven't you seen the great Daffy Duck cartoons? Haven't you seen the Popeye, in the golden age of that character? How can you do this stuff? And you say it's for kids, but really it's for emotionally retarded adults. It's because kids aren't like that. Kids don't like to watch that stuff. They'd rather see something that has some grit. And boy, when I was a kid, Davy Crockett was on the TV show when I was a little kid,
Hmm.
and me and all my friends went nuts over it. We all begged our parents to give us, the flintlock plastic guns and the fringe on the jacket and the the powder horn, so you always have powder for your plastic gun, and a coonskin cap, of course. And the adults aren't like that. They're not going to go out and buy, you know, change their whole way of thinking, because of a thing. So they're adults are sort of emotional dullards, sort of. And I think, but you don't want to cut them out because, it appeals also, adults appeal also to the side of you that, wants to do something that's genuinely intellectually engaging. But so the best films are both. They're sort of intellectually engaging, even though I don't think anybody would use that term publicly to describe them. But well, like so, okay, for example, Superman, the Fleischer Superman. In the endless reaches of the universe, there once existed a planet known as Krypton, a planet that burned like a green star in the distant heaven. Civilization there was far advanced and had brought forth a race of supermen, but giant quakes threatened to destroy Krypton forever. One of the planet's leading scientists, sensing the approach of doom, so there you have that kind of narration is good for adults. I mean, I think adults enjoy that kind of rhythm in a sentence and images, but it's also kids like it too. So there's this thing which is both adults and kids. It just belongs to human beings that's the sweet spot for me. I love to do things that has an appeal over to
Sure,
both.
sure, yeah. Well, as far as adult animation goes, I do think Bakshi did it better than any American I've seen because I think Heavy Traffic and Wizards are both two films which really have an adult level of sophistication, but then have this wonderful cartooniness in
Yeah.
addition. And I wouldn't want my kids watching either of those before they were a certain age. So if anybody did it well, he did. Speaking of feature animation films, though, I wanted to ask something adjacent to that topic. Do you have any opinion on what makes for a good feature length animated film as opposed to an animated short?
Uh, wow. Gee, that's a good question. Uh, this is going to be inadequate because I'd have to think about it for a while, but um, it, well, I think back to the films that I liked as films the most, animated films, and they would be Three Caballeros that Disney did. I know it started with sort of a not so great cartoon to begin it with the penguin, but then after that, it was so imaginative. The music, the Mexican dance that the girl did with the cactus all around her, and so on. And well, I liked Pinocchio. I liked Alice in Wonderland. I thought all those were good crossover films, and just full of meat for your mind, at the same time you were having a good time. The people used to say about Disney, boy, you work at Disney, you must really have imagination. And of course, they really did at one time. I wish they still had it. And so you want to put in something that's, so when I tend to think of what works in features, I think I guess I just have this is an inadequate answer, but I guess I just feel if I was working on it right now, I would say, well, it has to be something that enthuses me, that has all the elements in it, great dialogue, great acting, great cartooning, great color. And it has to be something that really enthuses me. So I really look forward to coming to work and don't see it so that, and I want to make breakthroughs in every area that needs it. So if I want to look at what I do, and if it says this is inadequate, this would not excite me if I saw it on the screen. It's just information. Well, to
Mm,
me, that means it's no good and you have to throw it out, start all
hmm.
over again.
Sure.
I'm not in the business of information through cartoons. That's somebody else's thing. I want people to actually have a good time and think about it the next day. So I would say it would have to be a story that prompts me to do that. And usually for that, you have to do something that is very personal, that somehow connects with uh, your own sense of liking to entertain and all the rest, and see the look on people's face. Gee, I never thought about that before. That's interesting. Well, that look that people get on their face when you say that is priceless. That's what your real salary is when you work on a film or a project is can you produce that? And if you have, at least in some sequences anyway, is about the best you can get on TV.
Yeah. Another Bakshi related question is next. We have one from a viewer calling himself laundry detergent. Do,
Okay. Hello,
do
laundry detergent, if you're watching.
do you have any memories about appearing in Ralph Bakshi's short film This Ain't Bebop?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh man, yeah, yeah. Well, let's see. I was a atmosphere person in the background at a cafe shot where you see all the tables and with the candle and men and boys and girls or men and women talking to each other in the background. The real actors are in the front, and so in that particular sequence, I got to be actually more than one sequence like that. But I'm sitting there and next to a girl I didn't know. She was an actress or something, and so she's a background person. So we're both background. We're going to be like a little bit out of focus, because the stars are in the front. And so she says to me when Ralph says "roll 'em" or whatever he says, she said, apple, peas, and carrots. And I had never heard this before. So the guy went right out of character. And I said, huh? What? Apple, what? And she said, well, apple, peas, and carrots, and like, like, and cut, stop, Bakshi. But it turned out he didn't notice that I had this problem in the background. He was cutting because of something that happened in the foreground that he didn't like. Oh, so I dodged that bullet. He didn't know that I goofed up. So while we were waiting for the next shot, the girl said, "Oh, well, that's in the business, that's what we do. We're atmosphere personnel, and it's just this causes your lips to move the right way, and I thought, oh, okay, okay, so now I know. So anyway, so Ralph says, okay, do it again, roll them, and so I'm ready for apple, peas, and carrots, but instead she says, "Do you have a cigarette?" Because I don't know, because I've never been an atmosphere person before. I'm totally surprised by it. Opening the jacket and looking in to see if there's anything in the lining and so on. All of a sudden, Ralph says, "Cut, cut, cut." I thought, oh no, Ralph is going to hate me. I goofed up his scene. But no, it turned out once again it was the people in the foreground that he was saying cut for, And, oh, I dodged that bullet, And I was also played Ralph Ginsberg, the poet,
Oh, Allen
and
Ginsberg. You played
pardon?
Al. You played Allen Ginsberg in the
Oh,
short.
I'm sorry. I said I'm Allen Ginsberg. Yes, the beat poet. And so they gave me the hair and the costume, and on a new set we're supposed to be in one of the Beatnik cafes, and so I'm sitting on this couch that they got from some thrift store that was nearby. That looked like it was from that period, but it was an old banged up used couch with springs in the. It was an old fashioned thing with springs in the cushions that you sit on. And so I'm sitting there, and Ralph said, "Okay, you're Allen Ginsberg, and when this poet comes in, he's gonna say a beatnik poem, and you turn around and just say to Jack Kerouac or whoever's sitting beside you, I could have done it better, that." And fine, even I can memorize that line. So roll them. So I'm sitting there and waiting for my time with my cue. And I was thinking that the beatnik poet, the guy who played that, would come out in the front. Instead, he comes out from behind me while I'm not expecting it. It just shouts in my ear, "Oneness, the universe." And so I'm like, and then I turn around to say to Jack Kerouac, lean over he's sitting on a lump of springs and I'm sitting on a lump of springs, and there's a gap between. And I fall into the gap when I lean over. And once again, cut, cut, cut. But I must have had my guardian angel must have been there or something, because once again, the cut was not to bring attention to something I did, but something in something else that was going on. So what do you know? I succeeded, but that one thing I learned was being and I was also supposed to be a gangster, and they photographed me against a wall that kill everybody or something, spray painted on the bricks or whatever. I can't remember what it was. With a really professional actor whose name I don't know, but I've seen him in films a lot. And the both of us are looking like tough guys. Try to imagine me pushing people around. Big guys bigger than me. But of course they're scared because I'm a gangster. And I was an audience member where we had to clear out, and I was supposed to crawl all over the seats instead of just running out for contrast. Just a bunch of things like that. What is that? Gee, there was something I was going to say, but well, I can't remember. Anyway, it was a great experience.
Yeah, sounds like
Marvelous
it.
experience.
For those who don't know, because it's definitely a deep cut, This Ain't Bebop is a short film that Ralph made in 1989, but part of it takes place in a 1950s beatnik coffee shop. Um, I guess you kind of got to finally live out your dream of being a beatnik that day.
Yes. I don't know why I like the Beatniks so much. They're probably really surly people. Where if you deviated an inch, you didn't like the latest,
Well,
film or something.
have you ever seen the Roger Corman film A Bucket of Blood?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's probably the least flattering depiction of beatniks I've ever seen, and it was
Is that the one where the girl does the poem? Like it's a drag, man?
yeah, like Destiny is an obscure hobo.
Yes,
Who
yes, yes.
so,
It's funny. I didn't read it really. I had to skim it. I had to go back to the library prematurely, but I learned a lot from it about Ginsberg's friendship in letters with Jack Kerouac.
mhm.
And uh, I'm not a fan of beat poetry in a sense. I think it's funny. If it's for fun, I'm all in. Just count me in. I'd love to do stuff like that. But I don't take it seriously. Well, for all I know, maybe they didn't either. I'm not sure. It, but it seemed there was a poet named Swinburne in England, and he's the guy who started the idea that the Beatniks picked up on. I'm assuming, or Whitman, Walt Whitman, or something like that, picked up on of a more conversational kind of poetry that didn't follow a rigid meter and so on, but nevertheless felt like poetry. And so the beats would end a line of poetry with, and something like that. That would be a quote. That would be that gloomy, moody, hoomy day, and something like that. That's the poem. I'm
Yeah,
thinking, huh? Oh, come on. You were supposed to compare that to Shakespeare's Seven Ages of Man or something. I'm sorry. But if it's humor we're after, I'm all for it. I'll write it myself. I love stuff like that. It's funny. I just don't take it seriously.
yeah. Well, I guess there was a lot of beatnik mockery almost immediately with Maynard G. Krebs and characters like that, right?
Yes. Boy, every year I keep thinking this is the year I'm going to buy a beret, a black beret. And I already have a turtleneck shirt that doesn't fit. So it wears like a 10 on me, but I need to get another one. But nobody's making turtleneck shirts anymore. They have modified turtleneck shirts that sort of look like something Steve Jobs would wear. That's just tight around the collar. And they call that a turtleneck. And I'm thinking, well, that's not an authentic beatnik
Yeah.
turtleneck. I want a turtleneck that Allen Ginsberg would wear.
Yeah. Well, This Ain't Bebop has actually been uploaded on YouTube by someone, so I recommend people check it out, and you can see Eddie in it. Speaking of beatnik stuff,
Well, there goes any possible fan I might have had.
uh, speaking of beatnik stuff, here's an interesting question from Winnie. She asks, "Are there parallels between jazz and cartooning? Could be a me thing, but I think jazz is possibly the most cartoon friendly and cartoon adjacent music form there is because it's constantly evolving and breaking off into different forms, but also mostly unpretentious and accessible." So are there parallels between jazz and cartooning?
Wait, who is this? Who wrote this? What is the name of that
Winnie.
girl? Winnie?
Mhm.
That's pretty smart comment. Wow. Yeah, I would love to work on something like that because I know we can make it funny and make it work and make it entertaining. Uh, you know, uh, even though I'm against it formally as poetry, I love it in other ways. It's just fun. It's just and for a brief period in my youth, I got to sit, with the a real beatnik thing that was in Philadelphia. And, I didn't wear a beret or anything, but nevertheless, it was all the trappings, and everybody was chain smoking and talking about the latest Fellini films and all this stuff. And I had the best time doing that, arguing about things, and just wonderful. Yeah, I would love to work on something like that.
This next question is also somewhat related to Bakshi because of Fritz the Cat, and it's related to Philadelphia, actually. A viewer who chose to remain anonymous asks, what are your thoughts on Robert Crumb? And did you know that he grew up in Philadelphia around the same time that you did?
Yes, and I didn't know that he was there. At the same time I was buying the comics, I just assumed he lived in New York or Cleveland or something. And yeah, Philadelphia, you don't think of it as the place to be, as the hip place. And looking back on that era, there were so many people of note who lived there at the time, at least for a while, that I guess it was something like that, and I didn't realize it. But they had all these head stores where you could buy beat it curtains for your door, and all the hippie paraphernalia of things to smoke with. And I didn't do that, but it was all the posters of stuff, and I used to, and you bought your underground comics there in that era.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of Crumb Comics when you first
Oh,
discovered
I'm
them?
sorry, forgive me. I think Crumb was great. His best work, which is all you should ever judge anybody by, but his best work is amazing, just really good. I think he's one for the ages. Some of it self-indulgent or whatever, but the best work really good.
Yeah, I think he really continued to evolve as an artist too. Like, because the head shop era stuff was great, but then he really matured into like more long form storytelling, and his art just got better and better over the years too. I'm a big fan of his '80s stuff that he put out under Weirdo magazine. That he published it.
Yes,
He
yes.
published an anthology of other cartoonists in the '80s that was really great. Um,
And he would do the written part of that magazine, Weirdo.
oh,
He would do
and
it with his pen, with that
yeah, yeah.
micro pen tip in handwriting it all instead of putting it in print. It must have taken him forever just to write a page of commentary.
Yes, and for Weirdo magazine, he created Fumetti comics, which we were talking about just before we started
Yes,
recording.
yes, yes, he did. Oh, I would love to do that myself. Make some fumetti. Make more fumetti. Actually, I did try it somewhat in my blog, but I still, man, I'd love to dive into that right now. It's just really fun to do.
Another question from the same anonymous user who asked about Crumb. Um, I think this is an interesting question. Can you learn anything about making good animation by studying bad animation?
Uh, well, I'd say if it was truly bad and not just unorthodox or something like that, probably you wouldn't get much from it. Might even learn some bad things to do. But I have to say that people can be, uh, it's do something that's not artistically successful, but yet you can see the germ of something exciting in there. Like, okay, this guy isn't on the tip of things now, but he will be later, I'll bet. And for that, that's exciting, and you just forgive the person all the mistakes. When you see a glimmer or something that leads you to think this person is on a good path, you just drop all your criticisms and just root for the guy to succeed. And yeah, you can learn stuff from that.
Okay. Um, this question is from a viewer named Paige. She asks, outside of animation, have you ever worked as an illustrator for things such as comics, posters, album covers, etc.?
Uh, Not in those categories, but I worked in advertising because the places, animation places I worked would accept advertising sometimes, and some of it would end up with me. And I loved it. Oh man, the advertising world is so exciting. It has a bad reputation, and but probably everything good has a dark side. It's like that. Of course, if that's what you want to focus on, yeah, superficial people and whatever. But if you focus on what's done right with advertising, it is amazing, exciting. Just get your juices going, the conversations you have with people. When I was in high school, when we graduated that summer, I met a guy named Earl who had just gotten a job in the advertising industry. And I sort of knew him a little bit earlier than that, and he'd always wanted to get into advertising. And I thought, well, that's probably a closed, shop. They, you know, what are the chances that you'd get it? All this is on Madison Avenue in New York City, and you have to be top of the line to get there. He did. He got in. And he would explain, he drove an MG that he just bought, those tiny little foreign cars with that are convertibles, green foreign car close to the road, and it would just zoom around like this. And he uh, he would tell me he would always be dressed impeccably, and he would say, "Eddie, listen to this. It's the most beautiful thing in the world." I'd say, "Okay, what?" And he'd say, "Snaps like turtle soup." And I'm going, "Yeah, well, what else is there?" And he'd go, "You're not getting it. You're not getting it." Listen to what I'm saying, will you? Snaps like turtle soup. And he'd go like that. And then, and he thought that was the most beautiful thing in the world. And he was in this thing, let's run this up the flag and see who salutes it, and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. And I have to say, he was right. The My experience with advertising, I can send you some samples of what I did, uh, was uh, was so much fun. And the people that I met that way were so creative. Can I tell you something? I went to some advertising event, some yearly thing where they bring in supermodels to have their pictures taken, and all the advertising people from the areas around, probably some of them from New York, but it was in Philadelphia, and it was no, wait a minute, come to think of it, this is LA I'm talking about, and really hardcore stuff. Well, I started talking to this guy, and he told me something about the industry that I've never forgotten. He is one of those people who comes up with the ideas. And he said, "Well, I don't think you quite understand what it is." He said, "When those commercials like Got Milk or Where's the Beef?" He said, "Those aren't done by regular advertising people." I said, "Really?" "But they're famous campaigns." And he said, "No, they're done by old guys who did the 50s cartoons. The really over the top ones, with the little elves who like crispy cereal and whatever.
Hmm.
Or is Ajax, boom, boom, the foaming cleanser, boom, 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 boom. Washes dirt right down the drain, boom, 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 boom. Well, anyway, those guys retired early because they made so much money they could do this. And they lived their dream of just sitting in one of the LA beaches, like Hermosa Beach or Laguna Beach or something, watching the girls in bikinis all day long on their chase lounges with liquor, with whatever booze they're drinking. And they've spent so much in the time that even though they're Caucasian, their skin is partly black, from just being in the sun so much and leching off these girls. And but every once in a while, an advertising agency, when they just feel that the client isn't satisfied or that something isn't good enough and they've reached a dead end and they don't want to see the account go somewhere else, they'll suck it in and bring one of these guys in. And these are the guys who can do Got Milk or Where's the Beef. That's the way they think. I don't know if they did those particular things, but it's that type of thing. The thing that nobody else can do. And they come in and they have total disdain for the industry. You have to watch out. They'll pick a piece of paper out of the typewriter and blow their nose on it. They'll fart. They'll sit in the conference room with their feet up on the table because they don't care if they're getting paid a lot just to come up with Got Milk, and they're the people who can do it. Nobody else can. And so he said it's a very small number of people who do the best, most memorable ads, and people don't know that. The so but I guess by now they must have died off or something because I don't see any black-skinned Caucasians around with a whiskey in their hands anymore and those things. And
Yeah.
but yeah, that's the way. And so it was a fun thing to do. And Well, you're working on the stuff. Like I said, I can send you some stuff. It's
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
if you can find it, I'll put it up here for people to see. But that's very cool. Here's another anonymously submitted question. This is about your filmation days. Eddie, can you please tell us about Quacula?
Oh, Quacula. Well, that was the first thing that people gave me a little bit of leeway to do. Other than that, I was just, this was my first job, and I'd never done industry work before, and I was afraid I'd be out on the street if I didn't, do something. They gave me a month or so or two to just try me out, and I'd be out on the street. And I really wanted to succeed. My family hardly saw me because I just worked all the time, having difficulty making the deadlines. And the so with Quacula,
Quacula, that was a segment on the Filmation Mighty Mouse series, correct?
yeah, yeah. I worked on Mighty Mouse
And
too.
but he wasn't an existing Terry Toons character. You actually got to create the character for the show, right?
Yeah, yeah. And but because I had been on a rope before that, where you better, the old guys kept telling me, don't, the nail that stands up is the one that gets hammered down. Just learn the profession. So I just, against all my instincts, because I wanted to do what cartoonists always want to do, just go wild with stuff that looks good and makes people laugh. But you want to keep this job. So when they first gave me the ability to do that, I didn't think they meant it. I thought, oh my God, they. So I did it in a really awkward way that I didn't believe in, but I thought it was necessary to keep my seat there. And they said, no, no, go a little more with it. Let's see what you can do. And I still didn't trust it. And so consequently, even though I tried some things on there that look by filmation standards were sort of out there, but are which are just about unwatchable now. But anyway, the I just held back, and I kept any day thinking somebody would come into my office and say, "You're fired. Why are you giving us this stuff? We can't use this. Just waste it your salary." Uh, but nobody did do that, and amazingly, they seemed to give us more latitude as time went on. But the show had already been concretized by that point, and so I was really happy. Unfortunately, well, that's incidentally, that's where I met John Chris Falusi on that because he came to work on that for a short time. And it was great. It was great working with the guys I worked with. And it was so much fun. I wasn't used to being around people who sort of got it, who just instinctively, or they
Yeah.
laughed if it was funny. And uh, uh, because other animation people that I knew when I would go visit at other studios and so on, they're very by the book.
Hmm.
And so
And
it
that's
was,
you met Tom Minton there as well, right?
yes, and Tom had a Preparation H T-shirt. I don't know whether he bought that or had it made or what, but it was the logo that's on the thing, which is a rectal cream for people who have warts on their rectum. And so he'd wear the T-shirt, but he'd wear it as sort of underwear, like BVDs, and he'd put his legs through the armholes and stretch the bottom part of the shirt up to the ear. And then he had a cap that he wore, a baseball cap, and a ruler was attached to it with tape, I guess. And on top of the ruler was a five-fingered glove, which I might have. I'm guessing that he might have gotten the idea for that from that 500 Fingers of
Oh yeah.
Dr. Zeus film.
Yeah.
And aviator glasses, dark glasses. And he would walk down the corridors with a water pistol or a gun. What do you call it? That shoots a dart gun. And he so a water pistol and a dart gun, and the preparation T-shirt upside down, and the cap with the hand on it, and he would just wander up and shooting darts at people. And yeah, Tom was great. really fun working with him. The thing is, Tom had a voice that was very low key, and he sort of spoke into his shirt all the time. And so frequently I would walk into his room and there would be two, three, four people in there, and they'd all be listening to him talk because he was so funny,
Mhm.
but they'd all be leaning toward him, putting their ear for trying to hear it while he's talking into a shirt. But if you go to the trouble of listening to what that shirt is hearing, it's fantastic. It's so funny, and that was wonderful. And Wendell Washer was there, and he was a really funny guy. And Wendell would. There's a saying about people. He's so smart. If you ask him the time, he'll tell you how to make a clock.
Mhm.
And Wendell was like that. He was very technique oriented. And if you asked him a simple question about how to do something, and that would he'd give you a very technical rendition on it, that he just quickly penciled out, in comic form with arrows and word balloons and mathematics or something. Yes, so if you want to do that, then do this. There, believe it or not, there are some technical things in animation. Like, for example, if four people are walking down the street, like the Fat Albert, I had to do the Fat Albert show. That was like
Mhm.
horrifying. But anyway, you're walking down the street. There's two guys here and two guys here, and they're all walking, and you want to track along with them. Well, if you're listening to these two front guys talking to each other, and you want to go back to the other two without a cut and see what they're saying, that actually requires a little math to figure out how to do that on the measurements that you use. And but Wendell loved stuff like that. He had relish for that. The rest of us, we always had to go to Wendell. Remind me of Jim Smith. Jim Smith at Spumco was the same way. He very astute technically. He a lot of time I remember asking him one time. I did a character like this. The hands was, you see how all the fingers are interlaced and at different angles, and the knuckles appear at unusual places, and there's the thumb and so on. Well, anyway, I was drawing it and it just wasn't coming out funny. And since Jim was the new Wendell, very, he's a very mild guy, but he could do technical things really well. As a matter of fact, his style comes from technique of making fun of really complicated technique. And so he would say, "Oh, Eddie, you don't know how to do that? Here, give it to me." And he'd show me bit by bit, and he would graph it out, and it would actually be a lot of lines, with almost ruler lines, that he just drew straight,
Mhm.
showing the perspective changes on each knuckle and so on. So you'd get a whole lesson in draftsmanship when all you did was say, "Gee, I don't like the way I drew this. Can you think of a funnier way?" And so you need people like that. Every studio needs its technicians, and in Jim's case, in Wendell's case, they were also funny people at the same time. So they thought it was fun. They thought perspective was funny, which is interesting because you don't think of it that way yourself. But when you draw a house here, a house here, a house there, and a house there, if you use perspective and you have a sense of humor, the angle you choose actually is funny. And you're saying, "Well, I don't understand. They're just suburban houses." But because of the way you've chosen to put them in relationship to each other, it actually makes you laugh.
Hmm.
And Jim was the king of that, and so is Wendell. Wendell was great. Gee, Wendell passed away, and of course Jim isn't with us anymore.
Yeah.
So we lost our two technical people, and I hope that there's other people like that out there because you need those guys.
Yeah. Well, this next question is about the new adventures of Beany and Cecil, which in our previous conversation, you said, you could write a book on everything that went wrong with that show. But a viewer named Pineapple Bank has a specific question about it.
Okay.
His question is, can you please tell us about the episode of Beany and Cecil you directed called DJ Goes Ape, and why did it get banned? Was this a
What
banned
got
ep-
banned?
was this a banned episode of I mean, obviously it didn't get to air because I think only two or three of episodes of that show even went to air. But what can you tell us about DJ Goes Ape? What was that cartoon about?
Um, I, it's funny. I was just starting to get a hang on the show when it just ended. And before that, had all the things I'd worked on previously with everybody telling me, the way the industry is now, it has to be like this and it has to be like that. And I was trying to keep all that in mind, was trying to be funny at the same time. And John was great to work for, uh, and a great bunch of guys. But I didn't exactly start running on that. I was still, a little bit suspicious because not of John. He obviously wanted to do something that was just great, but uh, you don't want to end up on the street in the animation industry. It's cool, because when you think about it, there's no other place in America where you could practice animation. A little bit in San Francisco, a little bit in New York, but basically it was Los Angeles. So if the word gets around in LA, and of course you're judged by what's in the air, what people say about you over lunches. The average lunch conversation is who's good in the industry and who's bad, who's overrated, who's underrated. Well, if you get on the wrong side of that, you just don't get any work. And so I was a little bit cautious, and I needn't have been. But John was very understanding, and I forget what the question was. Oh, it was about those particular episodes. And I don't have much of a memory of it except just the struggle to figure out something that would work for me and work for the show. And uh, there was, and John was having difficulty with the people, with the writers, Chuck Lorre and so on.
Yeah. The only thing I could find about this DJ Goes Ape cartoon online is that it maybe had something to do with dishonest John and King Kong having a baby or something really ridiculous like that. Does that
That's
ring a
great.
bell?
That's great. No.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, it's something like that. I can't remember, but yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah.
I guess you blocked it out or something. Well,
That was my my biggest memory of that was just the way John would treat, which I had already said, that John treated the people who came in with their portfolios really well and gave them drawing lessons if they were deficient.
mhm.
Well, he still had a meet a deadline himself. He was doing a lot of jobs. He was under a lot of tension there. And he would always take the time if he thought somebody had wasn't there yet, but they had potential. He would spend a lot of time telling them, well, you should have done this and you should have done that, and why didn't you move this line over? You could have, it would have energized this part of the character or something. Um, and I was sitting close enough, on the other side of the glass to hear some of the stuff, and I was just amazed. So on that project, I met Bob Camp, who was working on something else, but I liked his stuff that he did there, and I recommended him to John. But he had already heard about Bob, and I recommended. And I didn't have to recommend him because Bruce Timm found the guy Mike Fontanelli, who turned out to be a superstar. And Mike, when he started working there, it was just wonderful to see him work. He truly a true dyed in the wool cartoonist, which to me is the best thing you can say about somebody in the industry, is that they are true cartoonists. Just like Rube Goldberg or George Harriman or all the greats of the past. Um, he fits the bill, and to watch somebody like that work is amazing. But I don't recall the particular episodes you mentioned too. I just recall my stress figuring out how I should do this, and
Mhm.
uh, in a way that's not going to get me fired or whatever. And that had nothing to do with John. I knew if John was really running the show, that we'd be doing really fun stuff. But you have to walk on eggs because that's the way the industry was at the time. There had been
Yeah.
no real breakout yet, and
Yeah.
so. old ideas were still entrenched there, and if you didn't pay attention to them, you did ended up on the street.
Right. It wasn't the post Ren and Stimpy industry yet, but here's a Ren and Stimpy question from Uncle Sporkums, which I rather like. Uh, was there any particular unproduced Ren and Stimpy cartoon which you would have liked to have seen made?
Oh, well, man's best friend. No, wait, was that made?
I think he's asking about ideas for Ren and Stimpy episodes that didn't get produced. Did you have a favorite?
Well, there was a favorite that Jim Smith did a lot of work on. It was close to John's heart, and every all of us thought it was really funny. And Ren is telling George Liquor, when Ren thinks he's no longer needs George Liquor, he suddenly turns on George. I never loved you. To this day, I look at my own cat, which I have around the house here, and I'm wondering if he's going to rebel against me someday and say, "Oh, I never loved you. I just had to do what the man told me to do, and now I'm free. Thank God. God Almighty, we're free at last." Uh, so that was a funny cartoon that
Was that
took.
about? Was that would that be about Ren running away from home, running away from George Liquor?
Yeah, yeah, and really funny. But I don't recall that that was actually got into production for some reason. The powers that be thought there was something about it they couldn't put on.
Hmm.
I,
Well, um, speaking some more of Ren and Stimpy, as you mentioned, sadly we did lose Jim Smith earlier this year. He was one of the founding members of Spumco and one of the artists who really helped create the look of the show. And a lot of people were asking if you could share about your relationship with him. You said how his style came from making fun of technique. I think I also well, I think I also read somewhere. I don't remember if this was you, but it was something to the effect. Somebody was talking about Jim Smith's art, and they said he's the only artist who makes anatomy itself really funny.
yes, yes. And John can do that too, but John was even influenced by this man. Let me see. I have a bunch of these. I have a collection of Jim Smith drawings, but this happened to be one that was on top of a pile. Just a birthday card. But the anyway, this is Jim.
Oh, Chestacles.
Gesticles. Jim loved this perspective and muscles and things like that, and he thought that was great. And he got all of us enthusiastic about it. And when John did the Ripping Friends, which is a great name for a cartoon, the Ripping Friends, I used to call them the Rending Twins, and John would always have to correct me and say, "No, it's the Ripping Friends." But it would be hard to imagine a project like that if you didn't have Jim,
Sure,
because John loved to do muscular things that were funny, but you need somebody else to bounce off of, who gets it, and John and he was that Jim was that,
hmm.
and he was well, Jim is a quiet person, and quiet people are amazing. I I didn't know any movie stars well. Just meeting them on something you're working on, talking to them briefly or something, but you get a feeling of who they are just even from such a small exposure. And I was surprised how many of them are actually very inward, very quiet people. They're not extroverted like they are on the screen. Uh, and people who played these really manly roles, muscle men and all that stuff, and doing all
Yeah,
this great stuff, and headlined as being the ultimate manly man. And life would be like a pussycat, And he was very, very mild, and so forth. Sit down and do these incredibly outrageous things. Not only people, but mechanisms and things that are just weird. And but he was very differential if you were talking to him, and very low key. And so I began to think, because of my experience with Jim, and eventually with just seeing people in the live action industry, that it can be an asset to be in the industry if you are a meek or mild person, because you have a fantasy. You say to yourself, I would love to be, when I was in school, I would have loved to have been the kid that all the girls wanted to date with, and really out there. And so when they get a part to play where they can do that, for the time they're on the screen, yes, they are that person. And in live action acting, and they get really good at it. You'd be amazed at how many actors that play ultra manly roles are not that way at all, with the exception of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I think really was like that. But I mean, some other people who are famous for that were just mild, nice people, and really didn't. We're not out there with conversation. It was a struggle for them. And I think Jim loved to do the funny stuff on paper and everything because that was his way of coming out of the shell
Hmm.
and and making people laugh.
Hmm.
And so now whenever I see anybody who's sort of reluctant to speak, who's not really what you call the life of the party when they're in the room, but yet when they sit down to do what they do, they just
Yeah.
blow everybody away. And maybe that's how they can do it. Maybe that's their secret.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I would have assumed from Jim's art, which has a lot of giant characters, big characters, powerful characters, that he was maybe sort of a macho, outgoing guy. But
Well, in his wish life, I think he was. Now, for all I know, when he was a kid, maybe he put a towel on his back as a cape, and just went around the house like Superman. Who knows?
yeah, well, and then also you read that he's from Texas, and you think, oh, well, everybody from Texas has to be gregarious and outgoing.
Yeah, I was born in Texas, and I told that to Vincent Waller, who was working at Spumco, and Vincent said, "Oh, really? You were born in there?" And I said, "Well, now you have the right to wear snakeskin boots and and a horseshoe belt buckle." I felt like, oh, I finally been knighted. I'm
Yeah.
part of the rep table now.
Well, was Jim an easy guy to work with, though? It sounds like he was.
Yeah, he was easy to work with. He very helpful. Uh, I and everybody else who had trouble figuring out. It's not that I can do the simplest perspective. It's a few tricks, and when you learn them, they work fairly well. But occasionally, you have to deviate, and you have to know how to deviate. You don't want to deviate too much, so it actually offends. And so every once in a while, I'd ask him something, and boy, he would give me the best answer in the world. And I almost had to join a line because everybody else in the studio wanted to know how Jim would do something too. So he was sort of a backbone for part of what we were doing, of expertise. But once again, he he wouldn't make a big deal about it. He just said, "Well, I think Eddie, I think we can do something with this. Well, let's see." It would be like
Hmm.
that. It wouldn't be like, "Oh, idea, whatever." And of course, what he did would be mind blowing, but he would treat it, the same way he treated a letter that had the stamp upside down or something. Yeah.
What do you think his biggest contributions were to Ren and Stimpy and also the Spumco style in general? Like, how do you think he helped define it?
Well, I think for John, he was one of the really essential people. Uh, because he got it. And, a lot of people had other styles when they came to Spumco, and John liked them. But nevertheless, when you were there, he sort of kind of wanted you to do his style. I have to be careful the way I say that because I know he's going to see this interview. And I can just see him getting boiling mad right now. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to, like release the artist, to expression. But uh, you'd better do it pretty quickly because if you don't do it right away, he'll just fit you into the way he'd like to see it, which is always great. It's never come down to do that. It's uh, uh it's always a great experience. But uh, on the other hand, Jim was just he was the Rock of Gibraltar. It's funny if it's funny to use this word because it doesn't, in some ways, it doesn't apply. But he was sort of the intellectual.
Huh.
Every group needs its brain. It's
Yeah.
the person who's not daunted by something that daunts everybody else. Like if that's the deadline, okay, let's hit it. But just like it's a matter of fact thing, nothing to worry about, nothing to sweat.
Mm.
So he was also a calming effect.
Yeah. It seems like a really, not just a great talented artist, but a unique individual. So thanks for sharing that about him. Um, Changing gears slightly, but this next question is somewhat related to that. It's from a viewer named CB19815. it's from it's it's
Go
from
ahead.
it's from an android. A robot wrote this question. Uh, they asked, "Do you cringe when you see other people try to duplicate the Spumco style?"
uh, no, I don't cringe. Well, I no, no, I don't cringe.
Is it flattering?
Yeah, it is flattering. Well, I had to work hard to fit within the Spumco style myself,
Mm,
because well, I can send you some samples of the type of thing I do when I'm being me, and you can see a difference there with Spumco. But on the other hand, I so admired Spumco. I was so happy to be there, and so just thinking every moment I spent there was precious. That I yeah, I had to work on it, and I sympathize with other people who may, you know, their first effort might not be it, but if they have the talent and they have the stick to itness to do it, there's half a chance they'll get there. It just depends how much talent you have to start, but also how much work you're willing to put into it. If you're willing to just do it until you get it right, of course the first few times you do it, it's going to go slow and you're going to have to erase a lot. But eventually you'll get it. And although if you did, John would probably have gone on to some new height. So yeah, you did it, but that's what he was thinking last year. This year he has a new way of expressing with lines or something, and you have to adapt to.
yeah.
And well, with John, the thing always was do it your way, be creative, and do it my way. Be creative. And the two don't, it's an you can't there's no logical connection between the two, but somehow in a way that you can't put into words, you have to do something which is simultaneously you. Not just striving to be somebody else, but really getting it and doing that. So it really is you, and it's John's something John can like at the same time that's close to his style,
Hmm.
and that has no logical resolution. It's a feeling you get when you're finally on the right track. So when I see people who are struggling with that, and but you can tell they have a spark. You can see something there that's interesting. You just want to say to them, well, don't stop. Just do a million drawings. Just throw them out. Just don't get one of these bound spiral notebooks there. Get to oh well, just get a ream of paper and start drawing on that, where you can throw away every bad drawing into the wastebasket. And this this is I just discovered this is a type of sketchbook
Hmm.
that isn't made anymore. And
Hmm.
I used to see pictures of it in the 30s when they interviewed these old Disney guys. They'd show you their sketchbook, and they'd be working in something just like this with sort of manila paper. Oh, on the screen it comes out white, but as I'm seeing it here in the room, it's more like a yellow manila. And but you see, it's very flexible. It's this kind of thing, and it's it takes if you have a pencil that's not an art pencil like a 4B or a 6B or something, like you're just doing a normal Ticonderoga number two, that'll look great on this kind of paper. and it doesn't look good on a lot of other pieces of paper, but it'll look good on this. So these are available now at art stores, and I don't know how long they will be. Get them
Huh.
where you can.
Yeah. Here's another Spumco related question, and it's actually from another Eddie, Mr. Eddie Mort, who co-created the series Mucha Lucha. Uh,
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah.
he said, I'd be very interested in hearing about Eddie's part in rebuilding Spumco after the Nick firing. I know a lot of younger artists were brought in after the split, so I am also interested to hear from Eddie what it was like working within a generational shift.
Generation in the cartoon. Um, it well, I so wanted the studio to succeed, and I wanted John to succeed because John really was a great human being. It's a very he he was a nice person, a very nice person. Not necessarily all the time, but the dominant part of his personality was really wonderful, and he appreciated artists. He was really there. He was really trying to help you be better than you were. Of course, he didn't have a lot of time to spend anymore because he was also the head of the studio and he had to worry about deadlines and all the things, the production. And so you didn't get his personal attention so much uh, after the first season, where he gave a lot of personal attention to each one of the artists. After that, he you got it sometimes, and the but I it was so good. I enjoyed working there so much. I just enjoyed seeing the drawings that were on people's tables. It was wonderful to just stand up and look around. Even in the period you're talking about, where it started to have some problems there, you'd still look around the studio and see the most fun drawings of people's things that they're working on and feeling, oh man, I did it. I'm in Hollywood. I'm working on, a real cartoon, not just a fake cartoon.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think Mr. Mort is asking specifically about what it was like having new artists come in after Spumco was no longer doing Ren and Stimpy, and how they were integrated into Spumco afterwards. What it was like working with maybe artists who were a few years younger from a different generation, but kind of coming into Spumco later on.
It was fine. I'm thinking there was some real standout artists there. Uh, Katie, Katie Rice was fantastic. She was still learning, but boy, I wish I could show you some drawings she did. She had her own style, and John was helpful and encouraging her to do that. But she had the spark, and he was good at picking people. Even though he lost some of the original artists, the ones he acquired were some of them were really either really first rate or they were on their way to being first rate, even if they hadn't achieved it yet. And it was so much fun seeing people just expand. But it would have needed more time for this to happen. Disney once said, he said, it takes 12 years to make an animator at the studio. The 12 years.
Hmm.
Well, it's Spumco. It's 12 weeks. And you better get good at it. And the uh, yes, it takes a while. You have to do a lot of bad drawings before you can do good drawings.
Hmm.
And boy, that's been my curse in life. Just I usually do my best work when I do it badly first, and then I
Yeah.
do it the right way. I almost have to do it bad in order to do it good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if you're on somebody else's dime who's paying you a salary, that's
yeah.
do that.
Speaking of training the next generation, I actually have a question that I meant to ask you last time, but it just got lost in the shuffle. You did some teaching at Cal Arts over the years, starting in the 90s, correct?
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about what it was like teaching young animation students at Cal Arts at that time?
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. CalArts is a really interesting place. So uh, it was frustrating because I had a full-time job while I was doing that. And I had 9 hours a week, which comes down to 3 days, 3 hours for the first 3 days of the week. I would do 3 hours in the morning at CalArts, then go to Warner's, where I was working on the Warner's cartoons for that and for the Spielberg thing. And the and I was a dad with kids at home, and I didn't want to be a bad dad, you know. So you have to spend some time with your kids. And
Hmm.
my theory about teaching was for assignments, uh, do every single assignment yourself, so that when people bring them in, you have an intimate knowledge of what the problems are and so on. You're not just, giving something off the top of your head. I did that once, and it really, I really paid for it because it was what spurred me onto this theory of working the way I just described. I, for a first assignment, we were talking about. So I put some Jim Smith theories in there too about the how to make things funny using perspective. And I said, then you put clouds over, and I was doing clouds. And I was thinking of Steinberg in the New Yorker, what he used to do with clouds. Really funny stuff. Clouds are funny. I mean, I used to drive down the highway and just stop and pull over to the side where you're not supposed to be, just because a cloud would come over that looked like a school bus where people were throwing cats out the window. And it was on its way to colliding with a bunch of pies. I'm just running away with this, and John would get mad at me. Uh, so, in addition to having another full-time job and being a dad that really wanted to be with his kids so they wouldn't turn out to be juvenile delinquents, and because it was just so fun being with them, and being a husband, and having a life, and taking care of the garden and all the manly stuff you're supposed to do. The it was it was I was really beginning to get stressed out. It was just more work than I could. So consequently, oh, I know the reason I started this. So I gave them an assignment. I said, okay, I want clouds. Be creative. Make it part of the scene like Steinberg. I showed some examples. And I said, but do it your own way. And so the cloud is actually part of the humor that's in the panel that you're doing. And I was shocked because I thought all people had to do is just look up at the sky. And that's not true. LA is near the ocean, which means that any big puffy clouds, from Arizona, where the clouds are famous for being beautiful, when they get over to the interface with the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, which is LA, they get torn apart by the contradiction in the winds. So all you get here is a wisp. And I wasn't aware of that. So really, I kept saying to people, just look out your window, and they, if you look out your window, all you see is mist. Even on a sunny day, there's just this mist and that mist. Only before a storm, a rainstorm, or immediately after a rainstorm, then you would get the cumulus clouds that were really interesting, but they didn't last that long. So really, if you're interested in clouds, LA is not the best place to be. Go to Arizona, where every cloud is something. There's a million cartoon characters, and George Washington all the time is, his face. Every cloud looks like George Washington overhead, and people were frustrated. They couldn't do anything by look. They said, "Well, I drew it was out the window, like you said," and I suddenly realized that's where I got the idea that I should. That was me not doing my job. I should have done these drawings myself, how I would do it, as an
Yeah.
example. And if you just leave people by themselves, uh, yeah, you'll get some good stuff if they're in a good mood and whatever. But really, you should do every single assignment yourself. So there was that for homework, and I thought I thought the way to teach a class is to I when I had classes, art classes, I didn't finish art school, but I just had classes here and there. The teachers, especially if they were men teachers, spent all their time with the beautiful girls in class. Sitting beside them in the art bench, and lovingly going over each line. And and I'm sitting there, wishing I could have the attention of this guy. I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to really get a lesson where there's more to teach than I can possibly teach. And when I say teach, it would be from the vantage point of me having done it and myself,
Hmm.
and make sure that I knew how to do it, and then trying to explain how to do it to somebody else. Uh, it it was I still believe in that. So I would go into class, and unlike the teachers who would vamp a lot and they'd tell you the dream they had or something that happened on the way to school in traffic or something like that, I
Mm.
didn't waste anybody's time. I was influenced, believe it or not. There's a Roman guy named Quintilian who was around in Caesar Augustus's time, in the early 100s. And Quintilian is the ultimate teacher's example in history of how to run a class. He would come into the class, and he didn't care if the students were throwing airplanes or doing all sorts of whatever. But as soon as he came in there, people had to sit right away, and he would call on them, and he'd say, "You." Rhetoric was a big deal in those days, and he was a rhetoric teacher. So he would say, "You defend the following proposition," and he'd say what it is, using figure X and figure D. And you had to stand up right away. If you hesitated in standing up, you got a demerit, and the slave would be able to actually beat you after class. So the uh, and you had to stand up immediately and start speaking, and you couldn't defend the proposition the way you think it is, what you think is the right or wrong of a situation. You had to defend it, or be the offense against it, using the very particular kinds of things that he was teaching, and you had to start immediately. And as soon as you had a few words out, if it looked like you were doing okay, point to somebody else that wasn't expecting it. Yeah, he had to stand up. If he didn't stand up right away and start speaking, it had to be good. People were in awe. They were afraid of him, the class, because every student came from a rich family, and they had to have a family slave with them who had permission from the family to beat the student after class if the teacher gave him enough demerits. That was the understanding. You had to agree with that in order to take the class. So there was no fooling around. And the teacher was all business, all business. And so when the time came for the end of class, he would just say, "Okay, that's it," and walk out. Just like, rock musicians did that for a while. They just suddenly leave the stage. He would do that. Oops, class is over. Go fly your airplanes if you want to. But while you were in there, it was all learning. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to. So I would look at the clock while I was talking, delivering a lecture on something, and I would watch it, and I would always be afraid that I couldn't get enough information in the amount of time that I had, because I'd have really tried to give some of this some deep thought. And I'd watch it and I figured, oh God, and the exact opposite of teachers that I had, who were always stretching things out, telling you a dream they had, or, some experience in their life. And I wanted to do the opposite of that, just all that. But then I had to go and do a full day's work, which included extra hours usually at Warner's. They didn't make you do that, but I did it. I would have done it anyway, even without the class. And just because I believed in it, I was so happy to be in the animation industry and having so much fun drawing and everything that I just didn't want this to end, So, and I had to be a husband and a dad and all this stuff, and it was under a lot of stress. And get this, this is important. While I was doing this, I get a call from an agent who wanted me to come in and see him and show him my stuff. And he was a real high-powered agent too. And I did. And he said, "Okay, I'll take you on." And he would call me like every other morning or something, early in the morning. But the problem was, with the CalArts thing and the job and being a dad and a husband, uh, I didn't have much. I didn't have time to draw anything new. I it, I had a full plate. So my advice to people is the way things work is it's the theory that wars are won in peacetime. It's what you do when you're not working that really puts you far ahead in a sense. And one, not in every way, and it's some contradicting myself there, but anyway, uh, when you do get hired, and let's say it's your first job or something like that, it'll be so intense. And what happens is, believe it or not, there is such a thing as beginner's luck. And beginners, even beginners, will get extraordinary opportunities at a time in their life when everything is, there's no room for it. There's no room to do anything except what you're doing right now. And yet people are offering you this stuff, this job or this thing that would be, we'd learn a lot, if you could only do it, and well, that's been my experience. It's feast or famine with nothing in between. You've either
Mm.
got wonderful stuff to do, but a heck of a lot of it, or there's nothing. It's you trying to figure out how you can afford a hamburger to eat that day,
Yeah.
with nothing in the middle. And so when you're when you're in a lapse, when you're between jobs or you haven't gotten a job in the industry yet, but you're ready, you're looking, kill yourself every day. Make your own deadlines and stick to them. Just work like a killer. Because when you get on the job, you will have opportunities that you didn't dream of. That people you don't even know will call you and say, "Hey, I like this cartoon that had your name on it. Can you do? I wanted some advertising thing. Can you help us out on this? We'll pay you. Whatever." But you have to be ready. You can't learn that on the job. Well, actually, you do have to do that, but you would hope that you learn how to during the downtime when you weren't working. You should be killing yourself just with all drawing every chance you get, and because good opportunities will come along, and you can only take them if you have a certain amount of knowledge. And if you want those jobs, you have to be able to hit it running.
Hmm.
And so my own way of telling myself that is wars are won in peacetime.
Yeah.
The time when you think, oh man, nothing's happening here, I'm having trouble getting the money to pay the rent and so on. Those are the times when you should actually be killing yourself, like to and it's very seductive. You can sit there and watch television if you want, because nobody's there to stop you or to make you feel guilty about it. But when it comes, you have to be ready right away to just start running and impress people as quickly as possible. And you can't do that if you didn't build up to that during the downtime. So take the downtime seriously. Wars are won in peacetime, not in when the war comes, it's just rolling out the things that were started by each side in peacetime and how the conflict resolves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's great advice. So you started teaching at Cal Arts while you were on Tiny Toons. How long did you continue to teach there?
oh, I was only at CalArts. I was at another school longer, but I was at CalArts. Well, it feels like longer, but I think it was only for a semester.
Oh, okay.
For a year. Anyway, it was an intense semester and it was so much fun. Cal Arts is like, it's an unbelievable school. There's all this stuff going on. They have a library that's fantastic. Uh, and, you people will tell you, oh, this was Tim Burton's desk or this was,
Hmm.
whatever. And all these famous people are coming in and out. And
Yeah.
uh, the students are usually pretty good. And
That must have been a really exciting time for the students, I think, in the early 90s or yeah, 1990 thereabouts when the industry was really starting to pick up again. There must have been a lot of enthusiasm.
oh, yeah, yeah. It was in the air. It was in the air that something new was happening. And are you going to be part of it or not? Yes, yes, I want to be part of it.
Yeah. What was the other school you taught at?
Oh, Laguna College of Art and Design. And that was in Laguna, where a lot of these old advertising people I talked about were,
Mm.
with the
Hmm.
black faces and the whiskey in their hand, watching the girls in bikinis and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of famous artists live there in that area with, Virgil Parch. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
some of the artists, the big name artists, can't think of the name. Anyway, some of the name cartoonists of the period in print media live there in Laguna
Mm.
because it's beautiful
Hmm.
and the beach is beautiful. And yeah, and the art school is in a canyon that was just really interesting to look at all around you. Uh,
I think you also taught younger kids at something called Animation Creations. Is that right?
yeah, well, that wasn't it wasn't as good at I loved working with Byron, who ran the place, Byron Vaughn's. That was good, but the I realized that I my expertise would not be in teaching children uh, because children are so delicate. You know, you don't. With my daughter, I had an interesting experience. I should send you some examples of her early drawing.
I think you posted some on your blog.
Oh, I did. Oh, well, then you know. I thought she was a genius. Holy cow, I wasn't doing work at this quality when I was her age. This is fantastic. And it's unique. It's her own style. Uh, but I think I made too big a deal about it. Praising her and all that stuff made her feel self-conscious. And then when she got old enough to really read the magazines and look at the professionals how they do it, and then look at her own stuff, she lost confidence.
Mm.
And she just began endlessly drawing this pirate that she used to draw, and she lost it. And I thought, oh my God, I hope I didn't do that. Did I do that? Did I put too much of a burden on her by telling her how great it all was? And
Mm.
you know, John loved it too. And so when I went to Laguna, I said I better try something different here because I don't want to criticize people in this. If I ruined my daughter's career accidentally, I don't want to do that to another person.
Yeah.
And really, that was not a good idea. I if What I learned from that experience was no, there is no perfect way of teaching this stuff. Just do it the way that's the most fun and for you and the most good for the student,
Yeah.
and that will really put them ahead. And take it seriously. But that's what I would have done. That's what I would do now if I was teaching. What I did at the time was I tried to, because of my experience with my daughter, I tried to teach with a softer hand, and it's not me to do that. I can't be myself
Yeah.
and be that person. I have to be the person, who geeks out over it if it's good, because that's me.
Yeah.
So it was an absolutely interesting experience and really fun in some ways, but I don't think I did a proper job on it. And um, yeah, I would do it a lot differently if I was doing it now.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question about Cal Arts, which might be a little controversial, but that's why I want to know your thoughts. Is there such a thing as the quote unquote Cal Arts style?
There was for a while. Yes, there was. Absolutely, there was. This,
What is the
if
Cal
you
Arts
hear that,
style?
boy,
How do you describe it?
they get bubbling mad if you said that in their presence. But how do I explain that?
Or how do you describe the Cal Arts style? What is it?
Well, it's a little bit the Disney style that just persisted ever since that one they did about the Incas a long time ago, or the not the yeah, the Incas. I forget the name of that movie. But they had a classic way of drawing villains and a classic way of drawing heroes and a classic way of drawing girls. And every film after that was just a variation of those faces. A little more full in the cheeks, a little less full, a little more eyebrow, a little more this or that. But it's
Hmm.
basically the same thing. They thought they had hit a formula that worked for them. And so these movies would come out, which I can't watch. I was used to I don't know. Like I said, Alice in Wonderland and things like that, where there was just new things in every film that came out for a while. That's the Disney that I loved. And uh, they,
Well, I think, sometimes like on John's blog, he would describe the CalArt style, and he would basically use that term to refer to Disney formulas and things, because some people might not know CalArts was actually founded by Disney to train its artists. I think more recently that term has kind of morphed to refer to a more modern look on shows like Steven Universe or Adventure Time, which isn't exactly old school Disney, but maybe a lot of CalArts graduates work on those shows, so that's what gets called CalArts style now. But yeah, the term has been around for a while, I think, but the meaning has changed over time. Speaking of Disney, there was a show that I neglected to ask you about last time, and a lot of viewers were asking about this. Can you tell us a bit about working on Disney's attempt to make their own version of Ren and Stimpy, the Shnookums and Meat funny cartoon show?
I had nothing to do with that.
Really? You're credited as a storyboard artist on 8 episodes of it. So
Of the Disney, wait, Disney?
well, I was being facetious. I was trying to make a little joke. There was that show Schnookums and Meat.
Oh,
Um,
Shnookums and Meat. Oh, that's,
yeah, I was just calling it Disney's version of Ren and Stimpy because it seems they hired you, and I think they hired at least a couple of other
oh
Ren and
yeah, I worked
Stimpy
on that with
people.
Bill Kopp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying to make it, trying to make like their own version, their own Ren and Stimpy style cartoon.
Yeah, Bill Kopp was great. It was fun working with him. Um, yeah, it's that was fun. Uh, by that time, I was chomping at the bit to try something of my own. And it wasn't just ambition or wanting money or a bigger house or something. It was just the idea that I I'm so I have so many theories about this stuff, about the way to do it and everything. And I just it was uh it was a little bit frustrating because I sort of had to do that style. But on the other hand, uh, Lynn Naylor worked on it. She's great, did great models. Um, Bill Kopp was really nice to work for.
Hmm.
So it was a good working condition, and Disney was a fun place to be at that time. Uh, I just had this inner drive to do my thing, and I it was frustrating not being able to do that, even though what I was working on was better than average as a show.
Yeah.
I was really lucky to be there, and I certainly grateful for that. But boy, there comes a time, when everybody has to leave home in a sense and do their own thing, out in the world. And I was dying to do that.
Well, I think it was not long after that you got to do the worm paranoia. But
Yeah.
yeah, I caught Schnookums and Meat a little bit as a kid, and I quite liked it. And then more recently, looking at clips on YouTube, I thought, wow, this looks really great. Like this looks better than anything that's on right now. And obviously, a lot of talented people worked on it. You must have had a good working relationship with Bill Kopp too, because I know you worked for him on a couple of projects after that.
Oh, Bill was great to work for. He was really fun. Yeah.
I was, of course, I didn't know his name as a kid, but then later on, I realized that he had been behind Eek the Cat, which was a series I liked as a kid a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is from a guy calling himself Hardly Harry, and
Go ahead.
he asks, "Do you have any thoughts on the cartoons of Art Davis?"
Art Davis. No kidding.
Yeah, a lesser known Looney Tunes director.
Well, Davis, who was the other director of that caliber who worked at Warner's? There was two like that. It was Art Davis and another. Um, just can't think. He did some of the Daffy wartime cartoons.
Oh, Tashlin?
No, not Tashlin. No, Tashlin was great. But well, anyway, um, what do I think of Art Davis? David did some good stuff, and I I was so enamored with, you know, Daffy Duck and Porky and that crew of old characters and everything that I had what I considered high standards of the way it should look. Didn't have to be the same. And I loved Clampett's idea of occasionally, if you had an artist like Izzy Ellis working for you, who really did was a bad fit for the cartoon in a sense. But Clampett thought what his work was so funny that he just let him do scenes sort of his way, even though they didn't gel with the way the character was drawn in other parts of the film necessarily. And I like that. But Art Davis was funny and whatever, but you sort of had to do it, but use the model sheets and there's a certain amount of professionalism was involved, and uh, professionalism I think is something that should always be in the back of your head, always always on your mind, but in the front of your head, all you should be thinking about is it am I having fun doing this? Will people have fun watching it? And usually, if you have fun doing it, there's half a chance that people have fun watching it. So it's usually the same.
Hmm.
So the professional thing was something to me that was imposed on the animation industry. It's in the 1960 was a big deal for the industry and so on because, and you see it on TV the way TV used to be. TV started as an adjunct of radio, and I had all these radio type ideas, like that Superman beginning I was telling you. That's a radio type beginning, but they put it onto film and it worked. Well, anyway, there was a lot of things like that. People were trying all different things during early television era, ways of introing a show, really novel ways, novel music that was just unlike any other music you'd hear. And everybody had their own way of doing it and so on, just like early radio. And but by the 1960s, it had become standardized. There was a professional way of doing everything, both in live action and in every other way, writing and so on. And I thought that was so sad to see. Uh, the person I think bears some of the responsibility is Perry Como.
Oh,
Have you ever seen Perry Como?
yeah. Why is it his fault?
I love blaming people for things. If he could listen to this, he'd probably want to cry out, "Wasn't my fault. I just did what they told me to do." Well, anyway, he Perry Como was a guy who was sort of uncomfortable in his own skin. He didn't think he looked good. Now, I have never read this. I've never heard anybody say this. It's just my own intuition looking at him, but he doesn't know how to gesture when some people make the gestures when they sing, oh, whatever. He's not that kind of guy. He doesn't know what to do with his hands. He's Ed Sullivan didn't know what to do with his hands either. But Ed Sullivan, became famous for trying to do something with his hands to get them out of the way while he talked. And it resulted in a beautiful style that was just hilarious that everybody likes to imitate even nowadays. There are people doing that who don't even know where it comes from, but it all started with Ed Sullivan. But anyway, uh, so Perry Como would come out there and just do a little gesture with his hand. And he would sing in the oscilloscope, you expect to see this, but his is like this, just a line with slight, it's the same thing all the way through the song. And he just does a professional job. And I'm thinking, will you stop the professional already? You
Yeah.
want to get a rise out of people. So later on, when I talked to older people that I knew, people who are past retirement age, who, were current with Perry Como, or they were in their 20s when that was going on. Anyway, those people, I couldn't get a good conversation going with them. I talk about, this big band or something, and gee, wasn't this, great music for the the era that produced swing and all of that, jitterbug and whatever. And it all ended with Perry Como because Perry Como became the template. Like that's the definition of professionalism is the way Perry Como does things. The whoever orchestrated the way the dancers are and everything, they would come in like military and stand in just the right distance from each other as if it was measured by a ruler or something by
Yeah.
somebody. And everything was a sort of by the book. And even the surprises were by the book. A new element in the background slides in just at the right speed, just as the person comes in from the other side, and they have exactly 5 steps to make the move, just like the curtain. The other thing had 5 increments. And so you get this anal retentive thing where all of a sudden the juice is gone. Now, there were exceptions during that period. Certainly after 1960, some people got used to the professional way of doing things and then managed to do something good with it. But a lot of people just followed that template, and TV died for a few years, and then it picked up again with the Twilight Zone and all these, weird things, the
Mm.
Hitchcock hour or whatever, Hitchcock half hour rather. And so there was some good stuff in that era, but the idea that when you get into the arts that you're a professional and certain things are expecting of you being a professional. I'm sorry. To my mind, yes, of course, by skills. If you mean are you skilled? Yes, in that sense, you should be professional. But there should be a part of you that's just anarchic and
Yeah.
that just cries out to be understood on a level that can't be put into words. That you just know it when you see it, and where you're trying something new all the time, and if it doesn't work, you feel horrible. You feel like you deserve to be out on the street, run over by cars. You just are ashamed of yourself for not doing something that really blows people's minds. Well, that's the era that I like, and for a while, Jitterbug and all that stuff was like that, and it was great. And then rock and roll was great after a while, but there was an intermediate time there when there was an awkwardness of professionalism,
Hmm.
and I call it the Perry Como effort. And the reason I mentioned Perry Como is because these old people that I talked to, when I said, "Hey, you were in high school or something when jitterbugs and going on, all that stuff. What did you think of it?" And they'd say, "I know I was there, but I can't remember." Okay, one person says that you don't take it seriously, but they were all saying that, and every single one of them said, "I remember I liked Perry Como." Which is
Uh.
where I got this animus about Pericoma. That so many older people said they abandoned swing so they could because they liked Pericomo so much.
Yeah. Do you think Art Davis had that kind of Perry Cuomo quality? Cuomo, Como,
Well,
of
uh,
being a professional mainly, to the exclusion of
yeah,
maybe
sort of.
cutting loose. I noticed looking at his filmography that he came in after Clampett left Looney Tunes and finished a few Clampett cartoons that Clampett had started.
Yeah, yeah. And so did McKimson did some of that too. Except McKimson was such a wonderful artist that he did Birth of an Ocean, which was started by Clampett, and that was a good cartoon. I think he did right by that cartoon.
Oh yeah, Birth of an Ocean, right, with the Peter Lorre character. Yeah, remember?
Yes, he's the Peter Lorre says, "Why did you hit me with that baseball bat, Theodore?
Yeah.
Don't you know it makes me want to do terrible, horrible things to you?"
Good
Oh,
night,
come on, that's
Leopold.
one of the high points of animation
Yeah.
dialogue.
Remember me? I'm Leopold. Some part I got in this picture. Phooey.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Um, well, staying on the subject of Looney Tunes, Maxwell Cartoons asks, "Did you see The Day the Earth Blew Up? And if so, what did you think of it?" That was
What
a
is it?
feature length Looney Tunes film that came out last year with starring Porky and Daffy and Petunia Pig.
Well, a lot of people liked it, and I regret the fact that I didn't see it because I didn't like the basketball one that they did,
It's nothing like Space Jam. Don't worry.
and I was
Yeah.
so sure it would be like that
No,
that,
no.
that I just stayed away. And then one of these days I'm going to have to see it because people tell me no, no, it was better than that.
Oh yeah, no,
Everybody said,
I thought it was quite good, and maybe it may just be my imagination, but I think there's a hidden Eddie in one scene. Um,
"What?"
yeah, you gotta watch out for yourself in this one. There's a scene where there's this scientist who's been like zombified, and he's walking through a lab, and you're seeing his face get distorted in glass beakers as he walks behind some glass beakers, and one of those facial distortions I think is very much an Eddie caricature. But that was just my opinion. So you can see it for yourself and decide.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh my God. Yeah, there was a lot. I got into a lot of cartooning at the time. The buck teeth and the glasses and the earlobes and
Yep, yep, all of that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I, it's funny about my teeth. I this gap tooth that like Terry Thomas used to have, the English actor. He had gap teeth and he was really funny. And so I think, hey, go ahead, make fun of me. I'll cry all the way to the bank.
yeah.
I got jobs because I look like this. Well, maybe I did. I'm just guessing. And so a lot of cartoons have the nose and the eyes and the thick frames and the buck teeth and the lobes. And boy, it's kind of nice seeing myself out there in a number of things.
Yeah. Well, I think John once described you as looking like what somebody's mental picture of a cartoonist would look like, and
Oh, that's quite a compliment. I
it's
must
probably
say I'm really
maybe
pleased.
that did get you some cartooning jobs once they saw you. Um, Jose Lorenco has a pretty open-ended question for you about Clampett. He asks, knowing that you knew Bob and knowing Bob's cartoon character personality, are there any funny stories about him that you could share from when you knew him?
Oh, Bob is well. Oh my God, there's a million Bob stories. Well, Bob Clampett is Clampett. People say about what's the rock and roll guy who plays at the piano?
Jerry Lee Lewis?
Jerry Lee Lewis. They said he never sold out. Well, Clampett's the same way. He never sold out. He was always Clampett the wild man, even in his old age. You could imagine what he must have been like when he was young, because he was such a hellraiser when he was old. And he loved to play practical jokes on people in reality and on the screen. He just thought it was funny. And there was a story that Paul Fennell told me, the guy who punched me in the nose. But in one of his lighter moments, he told me, and that was, he said, well, when they were all working at Termite Terrace, and me, I don't know whether Clampett was a director in this time or whether he was and probably an animator. And he he played a trick on somebody. So the guy drank beer out of a mug while he was working, and this was his normal technique. He always had a bottle, a beer up there on his at the top of his shelf, and so he goes out to use the bathroom or something, and Bob comes along. And Bob, I don't know whether he peed in the beer or whether he and then put some soap suds in to make it frothy, and then put it back up on the shelf where the real beer was. I didn't see this, by the way. I may not have even been born yet, but anyway, so the guy comes back in and sits at his desk, and all the other guys in that room who have desks in that room are just waiting for this guy to take a sip of this thing. The whole room is like this. And finally, one guy can't bear it anymore. And when the guy takes the beer and he's just about to drink it, and it says, and he yells, he says, "Don't drink that! Clampett peed in it!" And he looks at the thing and he sniffs it. "I'm going to kill him! I'm going to kill him!" And Bob had to run out of the office. He was trying to kill Bob Clampett. And Bob ran into the men's room and locked the door behind him just in time. And the guy was pounding on the door. "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him." Yeah, I got this from Paul Fennell, who didn't like Bob Clampett. So whether that's exaggerated or not, I don't know. But that's the story I was told.
Oh,
Um,
did
Clampett liked to
yeah,
play practical jokes.
yeah. Did he ever pull any pranks on you?
On me, not really. Well, one time, yeah, John and I, Clampett invited us to be in a parade in Pasadena, and there were going to be celebrities in cars, go along with the parade, just like waving to the people. And he said, "So I'm in that parade. You want to, come in with me? You can be in the car with me." Oh, so we both go, and well, it turns out that he was never invited by the parade. Somebody else was supposed to be in that car. So he gets in beside Earl Holliman or something like that from Forbidden Planet,
Earl
the
Allman, yeah.
and so uh, anyway, the they're saying, "Sir, who are you? This is for people who are meant to be in the parade." And he said, "Oh, I'm Bob Clampett. It's okay, don't worry." And but they ended up kicking him out, and so John and I didn't really. I think I didn't get to. I think John may have actually gotten in the car with him, but there was no room for me. Sad. But it turned out they didn't go very far before they got kicked out.
Mhm.
And John told me a story about that I didn't actually see, but John told me he said, well, before we got in the car and before Clampett admitted that he'd never really been invited to this thing, so we'd have to impose ourselves on some car that already had an actor in it or something, who may not even know who Bob Clampett was, for all we know. And Bob said, John, I have something to tell you. I can show you a secret that I have, secret of my success in these situations. And so he takes John around to the back of his huge Oldsmobile, one of those old people Oldsmobiles.
Mhm.
Clampett let me drive once when he was sitting beside me, and he thought we were going to get into an accident because just touching almost breathing on the gas pedal caused the car to race ahead. We almost hit the other cars and all sorts of horrible things when I was driving. Clampett was holding onto the seat like, ah. So anyway, so he brings us to the back of the car, or I'm sorry, he brings John to the back of the car. I'm getting this story from John. And Clampett takes out a Aqua Velva aftershave lotion and looks around. He says, and he opens up his shirt. He goes, dib it, dib it, dib it. I was using it as an underarm deodorant. Opens up the other side of the shirt. Nib it, nib it, nib it. And then he hands it to John and he goes, well, I can't remember whether John actually did it or whether he was so surprised he didn't know what to say. But Clampett was always playing tricks, always doing things with people. It was really funny, and just the whole room lit up when he would walk in because you do, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one last Looney Tunes question. L of Tacos asks, besides Bob Clampett, did you ever get to meet or get to know any of the other original Looney Tunes crew?
Yeah, oh gee, why can't I remember his name? Um, Not Art Davis, but another guy at that level, Art Davis, and who did some of the wartime black and white cartoons and Warner's with Daffy Duck. Well, anyway, I said to him, he was there as sort of an emeritus type of thing, sort of like, wow, this is the continuity between generations. Here's a guy who worked on the original Looney Tunes in the 40s,
Hmm.
and here we all are, and we can, he'll be actually directing shows that are in the new format. But he's there with the understanding that he'll answer questions of younger people who come in and ask him how to do stuff. So I went in and I asked him stuff, and he would say, "Gee, I don't know." He said, it was a job, and I did it." And
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that Norm McCabe?
Norm McCabe, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice guy. Who, by the way, boy, he had the secret of how to look good when you're aged, because he had just the right physique, just the right everything of a younger man, and yet you knew how old he must be because of where he worked, and but boy, he was the youngest old person I knew. I didn't know you could look that young when you were old, so he had that going for him. But he was not really a comedic type of person. Just the opposite of Bob, who would play any trick on you that he could think of. He
Hmm.
Bob had a nose that he spent too much time in the sun, and he I don't know whether it was a cancer or just some other problem, and so they had to put some putty to sort of fill a little bit of the nose out. and he was a little self-conscious about that. And one time when we were with him at uh, uh, at the Mexican restaurant, I forget the name of it. It's on Sunset, and he accidentally touched his nose with his hand when he was reaching over to grab something, and the nose stayed over there. And somebody had told me that he had some problem with his nose, some medical problem, and he went in one ear and out the other. It didn't seem to affect him. He was always Bob. And this was the first time I realized that, oh my God, this story must be true. But you didn't know whether to call his attention to it because he'd be sensitive to it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how that resolved. I imagine somebody, maybe his wife was there or something, and she told him, and he fixed it or something. But yes, he had a nose that if you moved it that way, it would stay that way. Because some of it was putty from. He used to go to the beach with uh, uh, cartoonist. He did print media as well. Um,
And he worked on Looney Tunes also.
yeah. Um, After a bit,
Oh,
he wasn't
Tashlin.
one of the Tashlin. That's it. Him and Tashlin would go to the beach and keep the tan going, for the ladies. And
Mhm.
uh, I guess he should have put more of that fluid on his nose.
Mhm.
Anyway, Bob was great, absolutely great. It was thrilling. I can't remember a dull time
Mm.
talking to him because he's one of those people who didn't really have to do anything. His natural being was just to be funny in everything he did.
Yeah. Well, when you spoke previously, when we spoke previously, I was really struck by what you said about him, that he sort of like, lived his life as though he was a cartoon character, and then he put that into his cartoons, and so
Yes,
he was always able to kind of see the world through those eyes, and that's why his cartoons were so good. I thought that made a lot of sense.
yes, and you know what? I took in some of the attributes of Daffy Duck for a long time in my character, and I do it at home here. And when Mary surprises me, instead of just looking mildly surprised, because I didn't expect her to be walking into the room, just because of Daffy Duck, it comes natural to me because I did it. I faked it for so long; it actually became natural. But I would turn around and go, and now my wife does it, and she does it because she saw me do it so frequently, and she used to hate it when I did it, and she said, "That's that stupid Daffy Duck thing you do." But I did it over such a long period that it seeped into her brain, and now she does it when I walk into the room, and I say, "Ah, Daffy Duck," and she goes, I'm not influenced by that duck. This is me. I'm a person. I'm a human being. So, Daffy Duck. Yeah. She won't admit where she got it from.
Yeah.
That's pitiful. Pitiful. Downright pitiful.
This next question isn't about Looney Tunes, but it is related to that era. Mysterious Mose asks, I was surprised to see you pull out a pic. He's talking about our last interview. I was surprised to see you pull out a framed picture of Sadie Hawkins. So I'm just curious to know, how much influence did Al Cap have on your drawings and humor?
Al Cap had a big influence, but I have to say it was a big influence on my storytelling and things like that. His drawing was great, and of course, we all know that he had Frank Frazetta, following him up as a cleanup guy, and eventually doing original work, except for the heads. But
Were you,
yes, I showed you this
yeah, can we say
before
that
in
again? Yeah.
format. Now I decided it looked better in the frame like this. This is an Al Cap figure. Yeah, there we go. Isn't that
Yeah.
great? That's
The,
Sadie Hawkins.
the famous
I love
Sadie
this frame,
Hawkins.
by the way. It's so ignorant. To me, ignorance is funny. Stupidity is not funny because you feel sorry for a stupid person. They were just born without IQ points, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
But ignorance is your fault. It means you had a chance. Something was presented to you, and you just turned your head and looked the other way.
Well,
And
both
I
both
love
those.
ignorance. Ignorance is hilarious. It's really funny.
Yeah. I actually just started reading Lil Abner in earnest last couple of years, and obviously there's a lot of stupidity and ignorance in those characters and in those stories. How did Cap's storytelling influence you?
A lot. Well, Mike Fontenelle called my attention to something I hadn't seen on my own, but he told me, and I looked it up, and it was just as good as he said it was, and that had an influence. And that was somebody goes to a fortune teller or something, or no, I'm sorry, they want business advice. And so Little Abner goes into this business guy's office, and the business guy has an assistant who says, his time is worth money. If you want to do this, you'll have to pay $10 a word or something. And out, gee, Little Abner's saying, wow, it's really expensive, but I really need this. And so, okay, so the guy who's worth $10 a word goes, well, well, there's coughs are 3 words, so that's $30. Ka-ching, the cash register. So like so Little Abner has to dig for the $30 and gives it to the guy, and he says, well, let's see. Okay, that's 30 that's $30 more. That's 3 words. Finally has no more money left, and he still didn't get the answer to his question. And I actually used that in a cartoon where the guy was going into a carnival for advice from the gypsy lady who reads fortunes, and the gypsy lady had an assistant with a cash register, and it was $1 a word or something. And before you know it, Mickey Mouse or whatever character I was using, didn't just couldn't afford to go on because they had used up all the money in his wallet, just with the other guys coughing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If that
Lil
answers the question, I
Oh,
don't know if
sure. Yeah, yeah, no, it does. Yeah, Lil Abner is great, and yeah, I wish more people. I mean, obviously it was like one of the most famous comic strips in the world, and Al Cap was one of the most famous cartoonists in the world, and it's kind of like lost heritage now, but it really is one of the great American comic strips.
well, and
Um,
Fearless Fosdick is one of the best
yeah,
cartoon characters ever in print.
right. That was a comic strip within a comic strip of Lil Abner that was a parody of Dick Tracy, and it's really funny, and the humor is very like proto mad proto Harvey Kurtzman level stuff.
And he had a girlfriend who had a chin too, just like he did. What is it? Was it Prudence Pure Heart or something like that? Or well, I
Yeah,
forget.
Prudence Pimplepuss or something like that.
Yes, yes, Prudence Pimpleton. And she she said, oh, she lavished love on him and everything. But then he'd say, it's a good thing you did that because it's a good thing you feel that way because I just got fired from my job. And she says, what? Well, you mean you don't have a pension anymore? And the guy says, no, no, it's no more pension. And she kicks him out. He was only good as long as he had the pension.
um, on the topic of Looney Tunes again, but also the topic of influences, this was something I wanted to ask you. You once did a DVD commentary on the Chuck Jones cartoon, Wackiki Wabbit. And on that commentary, you were describing how in the early days of home video, you actually owned a copy of this cartoon and you'd replay it over and over and study it in detail. What I wanted to ask you about that was like, obviously today people can use the internet to obtain a copy of pretty much any cartoon ever made, but that doesn't seem to have resulted in a proportionate increase in people's knowledge or appreciation of classic cartoons. So my question is, why do you think people aren't taking more advantage of those resources that we have now?
Well, I'd be one of those people who have to ask the question because I can't answer that. To me, it's so obvious. That hand dance that the characters did in that Waikiki cartoon, that Bob Cannon animated it, and I was thrilled to death on that. And that alone made me think, I want to be a specialist in hands. I want to be able to, because it was a hand dance they were doing,
Yeah.
and to a beat, like to almost Hawaiian war chant, by what's his name? Oh well, anyway, Not that, but something similar to it. Spike Jones. And I always thought that would make a great intro, a great theme for a cartoon half hour. Would be Spike Jones' Hawaiian War Chant, the part that really gets drastic and so on. And anyway, uh, yeah, just seeing those guys with the hands, all of a sudden, I just devoted myself to learning more about hands and how they work. And so that started me on that path, and I'm so grateful to it. I met Bob Cannon, and but unfortunately, uh, what's it, who what's the woman who did the voice of Rocky the Squirrel?
June Foray.
Yeah, June Foray. June Foray introduced me to him, and but by then, I don't know, maybe he had some medical procedure done, or maybe it was just old age affects different people in different ways, and he was having difficulty talking. Not in the sense that there was some impediment. It was almost as if he couldn't think of what to say because of some medication he was taking or something that just caused some brain fog there. And he, but boy, was I a fan of the hand that dance that they did. That influenced me in so many ways. It influenced me to like, when I realized that dances could be funny, and of course, nobody on Saturday morning or type animation wants you to do a dance like that because it's very unlikely you'll get it right the first time. It requires doing it, then doing it again, and finessing this and finessing that. And Saturday morning is not about giving the artist time to finesse anything. Your first impression is pretty much it. And which is a big mistake because the first impression of somebody who's been in the industry for a while, who has a feel for this type of thing, even if it doesn't work, it's going to have its own pleasure attached to it, seeing it. So they should have done it, not being so hard nosed, like, oh, gee, it doesn't look as good as Bob Cannon would have done. Well, maybe not, but the we should keep trying. Eventually, we'll be able to do it fast and good. But right now, all we can do is do it fast because that's how we get our paycheck.
Yeah.
But the but do lots of it, and the over time will become so good. The Japanese, when I first saw Japanese cartoons, I had never seen cartoon characters so frequently in a story walk in a three-quarter down shot from above. And because we never do that, it never occurred to me to look and see how things like that were done so that I could use it. But as soon as I saw the Japanese do it, I thought, oh, we should use that occasionally. It's funny. And somebody said, yeah, but it's, if you're not used to doing it, it's, they do it every day over there. So, here you'd have to learn it. And I thought, well, sure, let's learn it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a whole cartoon like that. I just want to do it when I need to do it.
Yeah.
If, if you're not, if you, if, you should always have to struggle with a cartoon you're doing. If you're so good that you can just do something good outright, and then you turn that in and everybody likes it, you get your paycheck, then you're not doing your job. Your job is to entertain, and people need to see something that's constantly evolving and constantly, they want to see something a little different every time. And that's not an unreasonable thing to do. Uh, there's always something you could. So if you if you think you did a good job, that's you should everything you get to do should be you aware that the great masters of the past are looking over your shoulder and
Mhm.
judging you. Oh my God. You don't want to let them down. And so you should have a hard time doing everything that you do professionally should be hard for you. You should never be in a space like, I can do that in a few hours, no problem. Then I'll have the rest of the day to have fun or something. I I can't even relate to that. I've heard people say that and I just stare because I don't know what to say because my own philosophy is you should you should worry over everything you do. Is this good enough? Did I I know there's something I could have done here. I just can't think of what, and you're looking at the clock and I every you should deliberately keep doing things that are hard for you to do. And that means that sometimes you won't achieve what you want, but you should try. And because in that effort, people will recognize their own effort about things in their own life.
Hmm.
And you become a good influence on the culture, just like movies influenced me to be a certain way.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, if you think something is easy, then you're not doing it right.
Makes
It can be
sense.
hard.
Yeah. Um, besides Schnookums and Meat, there were a couple of other shows on your resume which several people asked about, more than several, and I hate to bring them up, really, but the
Oh,
public,
geez. This is
but
going to be embarrassing. Go
but
ahead.
but the public demands it. Because when we first talked, I was trying to give you a big deal introduction by naming all the most famous cartoons that you've worked on, but I couldn't help noticing that even just hearing some of the titles of those shows seemed to cause you physical pain. So I didn't ask you more about them because I thought, well, if he's grimacing when he hears the names of these shows, that's probably all that needs to be said. But um, Eddie, I hate to tell you this, there's a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog fans out there. And they would like to know what are your recollections on that much beloved classic series.
Uh, well, there was, it's all negatives. That doesn't mean it was a horror, it was probably better than other films of that type, but I wasn't interested in that type because everything about the character was probably in the story Bible, and the major ways that he acts, pointing to something or of doing all these things are probably on the model sheets. And really, as long as you had a basic feel for continuity, you could do it, without without too much of an effort. And like I said, I think if you do anything without effort, it means you're doing a bad job. Everything should be you are pitted against a problem that looks like it's insoluble, and you have X numbers of hours to do it. And are you going to be able to do it? You should feel stress. You should be proud if you have a stomach that's acting up that you need to take medication for because you're stressing out. But that means you're doing it right. And Sonic was one of those things where it's a pretty he is what he is, and he's very energetic and happy and goes fast when he needs to and has certain characteristic things he does. And but you don't need me for that. Why get somebody like me? I like to do something that scares me because I think it's harder than I can do.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, it wasn't bad compared to other shows that maybe were on at the time, but I have to imagine, I think you worked on it shortly after being let go from Ren and Stimpy, right? So it was probably a bit depressing to go from Ren and Stimpy to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were other, wasn't Mike Fontanelli on it? Like, weren't there other former Spumco people
Was he?
on
He
Sonic?
might have been. We didn't always work at the same place. Sometimes we did.
And then
And
I think Kent Butterworth directed the whole series, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, people you knew, people you worked with. But oh, I don't know if you worked on the pilot, but I noticed that Ed Love was an animator on the pilot for Sonic.
oh, Ed Love. I think of him in the era when he was doing Jerky Turkey for Tex Avery and things like that. But he was always a thorough professional that everybody appreciated. But as time went on, he was his virtue was in his older age that he was professional. And to me, if I ever reach the day when I'm considered professional, I might as well cash in the chips. I
Yeah.
want somebody to say, to talk about something I tried to do. Maybe I succeeded, maybe I didn't, but I really put an effort into it and really caused me to think because I think of animation as being that which stimulates the audience to be smarter. And I'm not there to make people dumber. When people talk about the vast wasteland, I don't want to contribute to any wasteland.
Hmm.
I want people to walk away, with more brain cells than when they started. I want people to see somebody making an effort to do that, which is hard. By the way, an influence I had in that direction was there's something called what is it called? The Magic something or other in Hollywood. It's a organization for professional musicians or magicians, magic people,
Hmm.
and it's on a hill and it's in a Gothic mansion, sort of like the one in Psycho or something.
Oh, is that the Magic Castle?
Magic Castle, yes. So I knew someone who was a magic guy, and he took us there for dinner and whatever. And we got to see in the club area because they have a club for entertaining the people, the members and the guests. So they said this is the last act by a famous Asian musician. This guy who looked like Fu Manchu, and he's going to do tricks that nobody else can do. And this is his final thing. And some of his relatives were there and so on. And I couldn't believe it. We got a seat that was literally right up to the stage. I was sitting at the only table where somebody sitting at that table could look over this barrier that was separating us from the performance area and could actually look down at the floor on the other side. It was that kind of thing. Everybody else's table was farther removed. I don't know how we got such a good table. Maybe my friend had some, pull in that organization. I don't know. So anyway, so he uh, he takes a milk. They had milk bottles in those days, and he took the milk bottle, put it inside a cloth, and then hits it with a hammer until it's just a bunch of shards, and then opens up the shards and puts it down on the floor. So now you have a cloth lying on the floor, and which the other side, which people could see, but I could see better than they could because of the position of my seat. But anyway, so there's all these really sharp pieces of glass. And then he takes his foot off, his shoe off, and he walks around in it. And, then does a ta-da, type gesture. And everybody's applauding, like, wow, how did he do that? Because that looked like a real milk bottle. It even clanged, when you hit it and so on. It wasn't one of those Hollywood things that
Hmm.
smash really easy, made out of sugar or something like that. This was glass. And everybody was applauding. But I was the only one who had a table where I could see how the trick was done. And this was his major trick of the night, after he'd done a few other things. This was the one that would wow. This was the wow
Hmm.
experience. There was blood all over the floor.
Uh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, I guess this was his last thing, and he wanted to go out with a bang. And nobody but me could say it. And they're all looking at each other like, man, he's incredible. I was shocked.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Talk about doing things for your industry. So, yes, professional magicians have a hard time sometimes. I like that place. That was really great. I wish I had a membership in it, but I'm not a magician. I can't, I have to go with somebody if I go.
The other big name series which made you wince when I mentioned it, but which I have to bring up now because the public demands it, was the Real Ghostbusters. Again, I know a lot of people have fond memories of that one. Do you want to tell all the Real Ghostbusters fans out there why it was painful to work on?
Well, it wasn't entirely painful. There was some interesting challenges, but
You only worked on the first season, right?
I can't remember. I thought I worked on more than that, but it might have been the first season. I'm not sure. Rich Reynos, who later became a producer, a big producer, was then just a background designer. And I had some other people who later went on to other things. I it's painful for me because of a number of things. The I liked working at Deke during that period, DIC, and I would have worked at a union job or something, but there were none at the time. And you have to put food on the table, so Uh, the it it was just a formula show that, and I like the movie The Ghostbusters. So, but by that time, my head was full of Clampett and full of all the cartoony type things and ways of doing things and how to do the hands and how to bend characters in ways that look really great on the screen and how to time certain types of gags that I thought were really inventive ways of doing things. But I couldn't apply any of that stuff to the show.
Yeah,
It was it was just the skills that were around is all that it required. And if I don't feel that a show is a little bit beyond me, I feel I get antsy.
sure.
I'm I'm not in the industry to have an easy time of it. I'm in the industry to have a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Um, well, I'd like to segue to another topic. This might be a bit of a stretch for a segue, but Real Ghostbusters, like a lot of Deke shows, obviously had outsourced animation to Japanese studios. You were mentioning Japanese cartoons earlier. The next question is about anime. And actually, you wrote something about anime on your blog back in 2006, which I thought was really prescient. And I don't know if you'll remember this post, but I'd like to read it first, just for some additional context for the question I'm about to ask. The post was titled Thoughts on Anime, and it began, quote, "You don't need a crystal ball to see that anime is posed to make a big impact on the American market, even bigger than it's made so far. Somewhere down the line, someone will make the breakthrough anime that'll push Disney and Pixar off the map. It's only a matter of time," unquote. So the question is from a viewer named Eric, and he asks, how do you think Hollywood animation should have responded to the explosion of anime in the 2000s? And what are your thoughts on how it did respond to it?
Well, I'm a big I don't watch much anime. I've watched some of the major things and occasionally just to keep up with it. And I have the highest regard for some of the artists who work in it because they are trying difficult things and sometimes they pull it off. And but I like comedy, and I just don't think most of that is funny. Uh, and girls in particular that I know anyway, some of them family members and so on, not my wife, but I mean extended family. They uh, they had pictures of anime characters on their wall, things like that. And with the guy who looks like he just went to the parlor, the hair parlor, and had his hair cut with just exactly six strands carefully placed over his forehead, and a the raised collar and the heroic look all the time, and the glassy eyes that have lots of sparkles of sunlight in them, and inside
Hmm.
the huge pupil, the huge iris, and I to me there's just too many cliches in it. Too uh, I don't and it's not funny. Now I think a lot of people would react negatively. They'd say, "Well, it's hilarious. You just haven't seen the right stuff." That may be true, but I made an effort to see at least some of the stuff that's around. And if I hear somebody talking a lot about something, I'll try to see it just to see what it is that people are talking about. So, but it's not funny. It's I don't know what to say. It's men who and the whole thing with the glassy eyes, everybody having huge eyeballs that are like glass, like a gypsy fortune teller's eye, ball in two sockets with lots of highlights in it and everything, and the hair that's always just so like you had to go to the barbers before you did it. Uh,
Well, you must have, I mean, as anime was getting more popular in the 2000s, like the question was mentioning, as anime was getting more popular, you must have noticed that influence like rubbing off on young cartoonists who were showing you their work, probably, right?
Yeah, and that was for them. That was something new, and they were excited about it. Whereas we had our hands constrained. We were, in order to get my paycheck, I had to do something that was old and our industry is not allowed to evolve for the most part. There's some exceptions, but for the most part, if you wanted to keep working in this industry and actually have a car and a roof over your head and everything, you sort of had to do a certain amount of stuff the way it's always been done, the way everybody else does it. Otherwise, you can't make a living. And I, it was so sad to see this thing coming up, which I admired. I mean, I thought the people who pioneered all that were smart people, and uh, and geez, the Japanese people I've met were just really nice people. But the its comedy is it's America was one of the big contributors to comedy, to the whole essence of film comedy. And there's a whole tradition of it here and so many different ways of doing everything. Um, and it's amazing that somebody as unathletic as the older W.C. Fields could still make you laugh just by the inflection in his voice and a droll sort of look at his eyes. I that It seemed like going backwards to do some formulaic thing from another culture that didn't specialize in comedy. And I can see the look on your face, meaning that
Well,
you have
well,
seen
there's
some Japanese films you thought were funny.
Well, I sort of discovered recently. I was talking to a friend who said if you want to see the really cartoony anime, you have to go way back and look at the 50s and 60s because
Hmm.
they were very much coming off of the direct Looney Tunes and Disney influence in those years, and it's only gotten less cartoony over time. And I looked back at some stuff from that era, and I was shocked at how much cartoonier it was. And it was like, oh, it's too bad they didn't keep going in this direction. Um, why do you think anime made as big of an impact in America as it did, and why do you think it continues to grow in popularity?
I would love to know that myself. I wonder if I can blame this on Perry Como since I blame him for everything else.
Yeah,
The poor guy.
Perry Como. Say no more. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, their American media was so competitive for a while, and it produced an era, the so-called movie brats, like uh, Spielberg and George Lucas and so on. They came later, but there was a period before those guys where everything was just professional, you know, and Fellini was doing 8.5 or the Fistful of Dollars and things like that, or done by Leone. And so there was obviously something else happening abroad. But here, for a while, it was just be professional. That's all you need to be, and you'll be able to make a living and be happy and have a house and have a, always have a nice dinner on the house, whatever. Uh, and I, I just thought that was so tragic to see the creativity of previously, and all of a sudden everything is just a formula here. And then I guess people were so desperate for something new that when it came along, they just bailed out onto it because it was for here. It was new. It was different.
yeah,
The thing that probably first impressed everybody was just explosions. And Terry, you
yeah.
were talking about whenever you saw a Japanese explosion, the billowing clouds would
Oh
interfere
yeah,
with
the
each
the
other and grow
plumes. Yeah,
bigger and
beautiful.
all sorts of things. And I thought, wow. Not only that, they would do down shots and up shots and things that people avoided doing here.
Yeah,
And I remember thinking, gee, we should practice more on this upshot and downshot thing because occasionally it fits what you're trying to do. You're not forcing it, but it's yes, the first time you do it, it's going to be difficult and it won't look right. But if we do enough of it, we'll eventually get it. But I still think that comedy is king. If we have to make people feel funny, and
yeah. Well, do you think animation is naturally better suited to comedy than drama?
yes, absolutely, yeah, live action does drama better than we do. And when Clampett wanted to do the Martian thing that Edgar Rice Burroughs did, Clampett did a reel where you see the Martian creature, with a rider on top, going through. And okay, for his generation, that would have been a new thing to see that kind of thing animated. But I never said this to Bob, but I was thinking, Bob, you don't do that. You're above that. You don't need this.
Yeah.
You can blow these guys out of the water. Don't copy what they're doing.
Well, there's just a couple of questions left, Eddie. This next one is about the industry itself, and I think it's an interesting one. It was submitted by a guy calling himself Stupid Bird, and he
But
asks, "Hey Eddie, when a writer who has a passion for cartoons and animation wants to work in cartoons, what advice would you give them?" And I think he's asking, if I'm not a cartoonist myself, but I want to write cartoons, what advice would you give me?
um, well, I think the cartoon director, who's almost always well, and when it's done the way it should be, the director is an artist, but he should be the one who hires the writers. And by director, I mean director the way that term was used in Clampett's era. Whereas today it means you time the sheets or something. The producer really acts like the director, but I'm using it in the older sense of the word. And I think so. If you can't draw, you're not likely to put people in situations where the drawing actually carries the thing. And like in Chaplin, it can say in a script that Chaplin walks into traffic and tries to avoid cars, but it's only when you see it done that you laugh. You don't laugh at what's in the script. So writers want to be liked. They want people to laugh at their scripts, so they just tend to give the character something funny to say because they don't want to leave it up to the artist to like, don't worry, I'll make it funny. They'll laugh. Just give me the situation and I'll do the rest. They don't feel comfortable with that. They feel they're not doing their job if they don't put all the expertise that's possible into the dialogue. And I like to write myself, and I read. I'm reading right now. Right now, actually, I'm reading old Ray Bradbury things like Something Wicked, This Way Comes, and everything that I read in high school. I just wanted to see if I still liked it, if it's still going to rise from me.
Hmm.
And that's it. I thought he got into purple prose after a while, and sort of got locked into that. But there was an early transition period where it's just enough purple prose and just enough action, and it was just good balance. And it's purple prose. I could talk endlessly about that. But anyway, I I think it's possible to write without being an artist. And I think there's a lot of artists who couldn't write to save their life. So being an artist doesn't necessarily mean you're good at comedy storytelling. But fortunately for us, there's that Venn diagram where the good artist and the good writer sort of work, meet in the middle with a little area in there. And that's where that would be great to get your people from, who write. When you look at things from Warner's, you would see that the great writers there, they had lots of writers who were also artists, even though that wasn't their primary job, and worked fine because the director was there to say, that whole thing with Wackiki Wabbit with the hands. Imagine that in a script.
Yeah,
In a
you
script,
can't.
you just have to say the kid flamboyant motions and just go on. And that is the central thing in that cartoon. Everything before and after funnels into that dance. And that dance, so writers avoid doing that because they're thinking, well, it wouldn't look good in print. So I'm not gonna call for it. And I'm thinking, well, then you're in a picture industry. This is the industry that draws. And now you're saying you're not going to put that into the scripts because it wouldn't look good. So if as long as you're willing to work with the art people, the art director, and so on,
Hmm.
well then great, fine. Because if you have some expertise in the kind of storytelling, that's wonderful. Yeah, we can use that. But you either you better know how to draw yourself. You don't have to be the best artist, just okay. but you have to realize the potential. You have to realize what it can do, and in pictures, suggest what you were thinking of. And the artist may change it and whatnot. It's not carved in stone, but at least we have a general idea of how it fits into the general picture that you're doing. And so I really think I'm kind of mad at writers for dominating an industry. What if we went into their industry and said, well, the storyboard guy really can do what the writer does on this film. We can just storyboard it out. You don't need a writer. And and then we do lots of stuff that's kind of clunky, but it passes.
Hmm.
And the poor writer is thinking, but I could have made that scene sing, and you just threw it away with some cliche thing that people say. So yeah, in the best of all worlds, you will have people who are really specialists. And when I was doing the Worm film, I wanted good dialogue, which I won't repeat because I know I did it
Yeah.
endlessly the last time we talked and bored everybody. But yes, I believe in good dialogue, and if a writer can do that, man, he's my best friend. But I want to be able also to make it visual when it needs to be visual, and that means stuff that's not going to look good on the printed page. It's just not. And yet, this goes to people who have to okay it. It's CBS or whoever we're doing the thing for. And their people look at it and they say, well, I don't get it. Nothing's happening here.
Yeah. Well, I thought it
And they
was.
wave their hands around like in
Yeah.
Wiki.
Well, you did that great post on your blog once about writing a script for Animaniacs, and you showed some of the script pages, and you were talking about how, like, when you're describing action on the page, then it's kind of more spread out. If you write a dialogue heavy script, then you've got it in that neat column in the middle, and dialogue is just easier for somebody to read if they're not visually oriented, so they're more likely to enjoy a dialogue based script.
Yes, this idea of submitting scripts to unseen bureaucrats, in the parent company, and they okay it without any artistic knowledge. I should be able to do a script where I just have a thing that is totally visual, and I should be able to have that in the script. But I know it's not going to pass muster with the people who have to okay the script. And when they don't okay it, when they just sit on it for a while, or then that's much less time we have to actually do the cartoon when it comes back to us. They don't give us a quick, return. And so there's, I think, I think I'm open even to a writer who doesn't know anything about drawing and doesn't pretend to, who just has a thrilling or comedic way of saying things. And I always like things like, oh, I like tough guy dialogue. I like, uh, gee, come to think of it, wait a second. The other day I was writing something just for my own benefit, which I think I might have here. This was just for me. I probably won't be able to find it, but I'll just give it one moment to see if I can.
Sure.
Well, okay. Oh, well, I would like to see this in cartooning. Now, this is a writer's thing. I, you did it, you'd need a funny guy to make it funny, but it's not innately funny and visually. But anyway, so your friend says to you, somebody says, "Oh my, come in. My wife will be here. She's at the supermarket. I don't know what's holding her. She should have been back 10 minutes ago." And so you say to her, because you're a writer, right? You said, "Yes, she was too young to know better, too wild to care, too hungry to resist. Every can of soup wanted her, and some would jump into the cart to have her." You know, guys, huh? I love things like that where, people talk in these cliches or some really over the top purple romance thing when a guy is just describing his date, in normal terms, and you sympathize and you start coming out with all this highfalutin romantic stuff that you memorized that a writer came up with. I love writers who can write purple prose, and I think there's I think a show that was animated that also had purple prose all over it would be so funny. And I
Yeah.
think if the public could only see it done right once, they'd all say, "Oh yeah, let's see more of that."
Yeah.
And but nobody's doing it, so I did some of it in the worm film, but one film that's not seen by many people isn't going to change things. You need a show, a whole show.
Mhm.
But I don't. Or what's that thing? Oh yeah, this is from S.J. Perlman's book of making fun, an essay where he made fun of the detective stories in his time, the pulp detective stories, and he says a sample line. He says, "From somewhere, a Roscoe, which is a gun." A Roscoe barked kerchow, and a piece of lead creased my think tank. And I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah.
Shakespeare. Oh, this is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think writers, Hemingway, he's great. The short clip sentences that are just short and direct. Fine if that's what you want to do. I'm sorry. If I'm writing, or if I was writing for money right now, I would just do purple prose every chance I got. You can't do too much of it. You have to get a feeling for how much to do and how much not to do. But there's room for purple prose, and I hate it when I hear people say that it's a pejorative thing. I mean, you look it up in the dictionary, and even the dictionary find it as, defines it as an error in writing that
Hmm.
people who don't know anything do. And I'm thinking, no, you have to do that well. Are
Yeah.
you kidding? From somewhere, a Roscoe? Come give me a break. That guy is a genius. You're criticizing our Shakespeare's. Don't do that. I want to see purple prose, but in the right situation and the right way. I love it when a person who speaks normally speaks to somebody who speaks in purple prose. That is a whole field that needs to be mined and has yet not been covered adequately.
Yeah, definitely. Well, finally, last question is one that's looking ahead to the future. It's from Patrick, nice normal name to end on, who asks, do you plan on doing any more presentations like the one you did at, is it called Emmaus Public Library a few years ago? Or rather, not
Oh,
Philadelphia,
Emmaus.
Emmaus.
Well,
Uh,
it's from the Bible. It's a town called Emmaus.
well,
And that's the name of the township and the library that it was part of.
okay. Yeah,
Well, I'm astounded.
he said, I'd personally love to learn from the best, and I think many others would feel the same. I think he's, hopeful that maybe he would get to see you speak in public at
Well,
some point in the
you know what
future.
my experience, I only did two things like that here. One was the Emmaus Library that he's talking about, and one was at a old folks thing where I was invited, and they were both disasters. And
Oh,
I'm really happy that somebody liked that lecture I gave at Emmaus because I thought it's totally my fault. It was nobody else's fault but mine. I thought I did a bad job, really bad job, actually.
hmm.
Uh, it was a different audience than I expected, and that threw me. That's not a criticism of the audience; it's a criticism for me that any public speaker should get a feel for what's in front of them and just gear it to what people might like. And the which is great about comedy because comedy usually hits a lot of people as funny. Drama is a little bit harder to do, but anyway, uh, the first one I did was for a church. After the service, that was for seniors, and they were supposed to go get chocolate cake and coffee in this auditorium that was attached to the church. And so I did that, and I didn't know it, but the guy the priest who ran the church was he was a lawyer for the church, and somebody. I think he did what I don't know what kind of law he did, but anyway, he did a long lecture about the rules of being in this old people's organization. And I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about the organization. And it used up all my time that I would have spoken because that wasn't part of the agenda that was listed. When they gave me a day to do it and so on, I thought I had time to talk about this stuff. So really, I only had a short time afterward, and everybody was mad. And because when it finally came around to me, Uh, they, never get between a senior and their chocolate cake. They will trample you. You'll end up with broken limbs on the ground. They love chocolate cake and coffee. And they had to sit through this long legalistic thing. And Article 35 of our of the seniors thing, and I'm thinking, what you don't need a big seniors thing. And what do we? But anyway, so then it's my turn to talk, and everybody's really mad because they really wanted the chocolate cake and deferred it through this long legalistic presentation that wasn't on the agenda. And then all of a sudden I come up to talk about funny cartoons, and they don't care about cartoons. They want their chocolate cake. And I can sense the hostility before I even begin to talk. And I did, because of that, I tried to hurry it up, and it turned into something really horrible. And people wanted to kill me.
Oh boy.
So anyway, so then I tried the Emmaus Library, and that's a different thing. That was where it was mostly mothers were there with their kids. And uh, the great thing about Hemingway said something interesting about the ocean, which applies to situations like this. He said, people are always saying to me, why don't you do more visits to Africa and do the big game hunting, safari thing? And he says, why do you do this girly thing like fishing? And he said, because if I go to Africa, there's somebody telling me where to go. They know exactly every creature that lives there. They know how many of them there are. They know what month, you should go. Everything is known. When I put a hook into the water, I have no idea what's down there. It could be something we thought had died out 50 million years ago with armor plates and saber teeth or something. You just don't know what's under there. A giant dinosaur that everybody thought was over. And he said, it's exciting. Your hook is there. So he thought that it just wasn't up to the zest that you get, knowing everything in the jungle and having that. And I agree with that about cartoon speech. You want to. I like not knowing what's going to happen in a thing. And here, I just got a feeling like, oh, I see. It's in this framework, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And it threw me a little bit. Now that's on me, not on the audience. What I should have done was just had a big easel there, just drawing stuff, and bringing people up and showing how you can exaggerate their hands and everything, and then showing, well, then what would happen if there was somebody behind him who did this? You draw that. That would have been the perfect thing to do. Instead, I started talking about some theoretical thing, and it was very dry, not what the audience was expecting, or even I was expecting. And I was so mad at myself. I wasn't mad at anybody else. In either situation, I thought it was on me. Now, if going back to that church thing, if I knew I was in a situation like that, I would have just deferred and asked if I could talk another time, because it was obvious the audience had no more time. Their butts were hurting them. They didn't want to sit down any longer without a chocolate cake and coffee. So to me, the only way you can succeed at being good in this business is to blame yourself when you do something wrong. Don't always try to think of an excuse. Oh, it's somebody else's fault. You're supposed to have enough latitude where you can see that a different situation is confronting you and meet it on its own terms as quickly as you can, and still try to do good work and creative work even. But you have to. You can't say I have this thing in my mind to do, and if I can't do that, I don't know what to do, because it's a commercial industry. You have to be good in the format that you're given.
Yeah.
And so I blame myself for not doing a good job on that.
So no more plans for public speaking in the future then?
Oh no, I love public speaking. I would love to go back there and do it again. Knowing what I know now, I would just have a big thing, and it would just be all about the fun of drawing.
Yeah.
And what if you did this? What if you did that? And look at this. Look what I can do with this. And just so that the kids go home thinking, I gotta get a drawing pad or something. I gotta try
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, I saw some. I thought it went well because I saw some write up about it saying that you had stayed longer than was expected and that everybody there enjoyed themselves. So they'd probably be happy to have you back. I don't know.
Well, that's because they were nice people. They were wonderful human beings who decided to be kind to me, even though I didn't deserve it.
Oh, okay.
But I think you have to be hard on yourself. If you do a bad job, just admit it and try to do a better job next time.
Okay. Well, I that really ought to cover it. How do you feel about this, Eddie? Is there anything else you want to add?
Oh, well, what was you? I said there was something that, yes, Vincent Waller. Now, Vincent became a producer on, what's the SpongeBob and did all sorts of things. He's a good guy, funny and everything. But the thing about Vincent is Vincent, who was at Spumco, Vincent was Vincent is probably the handsomest man ever to appear in the animation industry. That's an objective statement. That's not me geeking out over it because I don't care whether a guy's handsome or not, but girls like it. And so uh, it resulted in the most weird things happening. Like you'd be sitting in a restaurant talking to Vincent, and behind your back, like two booths away behind your back, there's an empty booth, and then there's girls sitting there. And you hear like that, like, and you look around at the booth behind you, and there's these girls sitting there, and they're going, meaning you get out of the way. We can't see Vincent. And you lean over like this, and that's it. Yeah, cool. And, or the waiter would come, the waitress, and she would go to Vincent first. She would just turn her back to me. I would just see the back of the waitress, and she's just as an excuse to lengthen the taking of the order. She would mention all the flavors of so and so, even though it wasn't necessary. Just anything to prolong it, and and in the most sweet way with the sweet language. And then she would walk away. And I said, miss, because I didn't get my order. And she'd look around, what do you she'd give me the real short version. Yeah, yeah, okay, Mom. And then she'd go away. Would uh, People would put? No, I talked to people who had eaten with Vincent before, and they had the same experience. People were telling me things like, people they put their phone number on the bottom of a glass of water or something, so that when you drink the water, you see their phone number. The girl who passed, or a girl with her boyfriend is on her way out of the restaurant. They walk past your table, and because the guy has his back turned to her, she puts her phone number, which was written on a little card or something, into Vincent's pocket and just keeps walking out with her phone number on it. And that particular one I saw myself. And when we were going out of the restaurant, he sees the card that he'd forgotten was in his pocket, and he just throws it in the trash. I said, Vincent, that was a good looking girl there. And he'd say, oh, I get this all the time. And he did. This is a guy who was a chick magnet. You think to yourself, well, there's no such thing, really. There is such a thing as chick magnets, let me tell you. I have seen it myself, not because I am, but because I saw somebody who is. They lead a different life than the rest of us lead. We all have sex desires that can't be fulfilled and all this stuff. The chick magnet is beyond that. He thinks that's tiresome. He gets as much of that as he wants, And really, when he meets a meal, it doesn't matter who else is there. The waitress and all that. He just wants to eat his burger, And this somebody's address on the cup is not is an impediment, And man, it was an experience knowing a real life chick magnet, which, okay, I decided to mention that.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for that. Um, okay, I think that about wraps it up now. So thanks to everyone who contributed their questions, and Eddie, thank you again so much for being willing to come back and share more of your knowledge and your insights and your stories. And When that first interview we did was posted to this channel back in May, I heard from so many people who were just really happy to see you and to hear your voice again. And so again, this has been a real privilege for me, but also on behalf of everyone watching, thank you for just giving us some more of your time today.
Oh, well, glad to.
Take care.
Bye.